Welcome. Welcome to our meeting. I will begin by reading our public participation at Town of Hatfield Select Board meetings. The Hatfield Select Board welcomes everyone to its meetings and all other public meetings of the Town of Hatfield. All regular and special meetings of the boards and committees of the Town of Hatfield shall be open to the public and shall conform to the open meeting law. Executive sessions are closed to the public and will be held only by as prescribed by statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It is important to recognize that the open meeting law affords the opportunity to listen to the proceedings, but not necessarily participate. During meetings of the Select Board, an attempt will be made to find a balance between hearing from members of the community and conducting the required business of the Hatfield Select Board. For the public's information, this meeting is being recorded. Presently, my colleague, Captain Luke Longstreet, was called away to a fire, so he's not present. He hopefully will be here at a later date. Tonight's meeting will involve a meeting with the Finance Board as we continue to get our financial picture ready for town meeting, which will be on Tuesday, the 12th of May, which is only a month away. And as you probably are aware, the Select Board's responsibility is to try to ensure a balanced budget to town meetings. So that will be what we're working on along with warrants. Those are my announcements. I don't know, my colleague.
I have none.
Do you have any announcements?
I feel like I did. No, not at this time.
Well, voting will be a week after the town meeting on the 19th. So hopefully everybody gets out to vote. Under public forum, do we have anybody here for public forum? Okay, come right up. As you may or may not be aware, under public forum, we can't answer any questions unless you're on the agenda. So if you choose after public forum to get on the agenda for any of your questions, you can see Andrew, because unless it's posted, we can't discuss anything.
Is that worth speaking into? My voice is loud enough, I think.
So we hear you great, and then the mic is really for the folks watching from the comfort of their home. So if John says we're good, we're good. John?
We're good.
It's for the recording, it's not for anything.
Okay. My name is Wayne Schlegel. My wife Leslie and I are here tonight. We moved into town about 15 years ago. We live at 31 Main Street, the blue house on the other side of the library. My wife says I tell too long of stories, but I think a little background is necessary. As most people in town are aware, in 1989, I think a couple moved into town, the Cardinals, and they had an issue with the town bell. It was ringing throughout the night. It went through the court system on May 21st, 1990. In Hampshire Superior Court, a judge, John Riley, I think, or O'Brien, one of those Irish names, said that the bell should be silenced at 9 o'clock in the evening and could resume at 7 a.m. in the morning. When we moved into town, that wasn't exactly that situation. It was ringing a little bit later, ringing usually at 10 o'clock. It was no big deal, one way or the other. Over the years, there's been a creep. My theory is that it has to do with a resetting of the clock in the springtime. That somehow the mechanism isn't exactly precise. 9 o'clock turned to 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock turned to 11 o'clock. Well, it was not enjoyable, kind of wake us up a little bit every night. We had some kind of some type of power outage about 5 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. And the clock got skewed and started ringing on the half hour. When we went away for a couple weeks around daylight savings time change, it was ringing at about 11:30 every night. It was annoying. We came back 2 weeks ago after daylight savings time. It now rings at 12:30, actually 12:34. Wakes us up every night. It's a shame you can't answer or say anything, but this is an issue that, I don't know, maybe affects other people. People have, I don't know, certain lethargy and reluctance to come forth. I mean, it's bothered me for 15 years, but 10 o'clock, what difference? 11 o'clock, a little bit of a stretch. 11:35, now it's starting to bother me. 12:30, 12:34, exactly. It's not within the realm of possibility here, you know? I mean, you know, I'm 80 years old. I deserve a night's rest. I don't need to be woken up at 11:30 and 12:30 every night. I know other people, perhaps they get used to it.
Mr. Chair, is it okay if I just respond? Because this is just,
Yes,
this doesn't require deliberation. This is a technical issue. I mean, this can be solved, Wayne. So the right person is here in this room. Marlo Warner is our Director of Public Works. His department is charged with doing this, so we'll make sure that that's fixed. We were unaware that this was still going off at that time of night, so it's an ongoing battle to get that clock on the right time because it's an old system, and it used to require taking a very large ladder, climbing to the top, changing it. I don't think our workers' comp insurance can handle that anymore. What we do now is we turn it off, we cut the power essentially at the right time, and then start it up again. And that's usually how we deal with it, and that we'll get it back on track. So we'll make sure that that's taken care of. I'm sorry that was still happening. We didn't realize that was still happening at that time. So we'll take care of that. It is a tricky clock to fix, but it's something that the town does want to fix for you. So we'll make sure that that's taken care of.
That is wonderful. I actually had written your office, I think in November before, right around the time that you had just were, uploaded to the town. So maybe you didn't deal with it. But if we could get back.
We're waiting for it to be finished too. At the time.
That is true too.
The work, because it was shut off the whole time.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming in, and we'll make sure that's taken care of. And I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. That shouldn't be happening.
One little technical thing. On the website, there is, I forget, it's the app you use, Civic Plus or something, something like that, right? So I wrote the complaint a bit ago, and I did not fill out my daytime phone number.
Got it.
My cell phone, that's the only one I use, right? So my complaint, basically what I just said here, came back and said, oh, you got to complete the form.
It required a daytime phone number? All right, so I can change that system. That's easy.
The form does not require it, because
Okay.
there's and it's either darkened or there's a little red asterisk. You know the form, right? Anybody who's ever filled out a form online knows what's necessary and what's not. So I filed again. I filled everything out.
Yeah.
Everything. Left no line unwritten. I got the same message back.
Yeah.
You have to complete the form before we accept it.
Yeah.
So that might be something.
We have a new website template. It just launched 2 weeks ago. So we're still working out things like
maybe
that.
that's a
I did
bug,
not realize that was happening. So we'll get that fixed.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you much.
Thanks, Wayne.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else for public forum? If not, we will move to our posted business. I am going to go out of order with topic 2. Marlo
Great.
has a new employee he'd like to introduce. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have with me tonight Mr. Ian Wolcott. A few of his qualifications are he holds a CDL Class B, holds a 2A hoisting license, which those are both required for the heavy equipment operator's job. He also has a 4G for roadside mowers under his belt. And as a side note to that, he also has a 3M wastewater license. So Ian interviewed very well. He's got some municipal experience. He's got some private sector experience. I think he'll be a good fit for the highway department.
Welcome to the town of Hatfield. I don't have any concerns. I know you come recommended by Marlo, so for me, that's good. I
Same
have any
here.
questions.
Same here.
If that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of Ian Wolcott for position of heavy equipment operator laborer in the highway division.
A motion made, and I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, welcome to the town of Hatfield. I told you it would be painless, and it was. And I will make a motion to approve the wage salary rate adjustment request for Ian Wolcott.
I'll make a motion to approve the wage salary adjustment.
Okay, I'll second that. Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, you're all set.
Alrighty,
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Welcome to Hatfield. Thanks for coming.
I wanted to get them on their way, so, because I know they're busy.
That's great.
So I'll go right back to consent agenda for the minutes of March 31st and April 7th.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 31st, 2026 and April 7th, 2026 meeting minutes.
I'll second that. Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes are accepted as presented. All right. I'm going to skip topic 1, hopefully until Luke gets here, because that's part of the discussion with him. So we will move to topic 3, appointment of Elizabeth Clark as election worker.
I'll make a motion to appoint Elizabeth Clark as an election worker.
Y'all second that? Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Topic 4 is to vote to submit a proposal for health insurance plan design changes under Chapter 32B, S.21 to 23. And I know Andrew wants to have some input on this.
Yeah, and I have good news that we don't actually need to vote tonight. This whole process is governed by state law through a few different mechanisms. We did begin this process under Section 21 through 23 when we entertained the GIC proposal a few months ago. So we've had a PEC, a Public Employee Committee, that's been meeting. We also set up an Insurance Advisory Committee that's been meeting. The Insurance Advisory Committee was briefed on these changes when they met a couple of weeks ago, which is good. And then the PEC actually met today to discuss this potential change. And it looks like we'll be able to sign off on an MOA that would accept these changes. And I'll give you just a very brief overview of what it means and what's going on here. But we won't need a separate select board vote to move this forward. Essentially, the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, as part of their rate change proposal, included plan design changes as well for our employees, which means that our employees weren't paying deductibles and had certain co-pays as well. We will now be instituting deductibles of $250 for an individual and $500 for a family plan, and then raising certain deductibles, including for a specialist visit from $35 to $60. There's a couple other things in there as well. But when you make plan design changes, under state law, you need to bargain this with your PEC or with your or through the unions through side agreements on their union contracts, and you need to offer some kind of mitigation to employees. So we'll be saving about $34,000 a year by instituting these changes. 25% of those savings needs to go to employees in some way. So what we'll be doing is offering a premium holiday of a small amount, 25% of those savings. So for It's kind of like an average of $206, but it will translate to about $108 for someone on the single HMO plan and about $330 for somebody on the PPO family plan. There's a range in what the mitigation will end up looking like. And that will come in their first paycheck of next year. We'll send out actually a separate round of checks, but their first round of paychecks for FY27 in July. And we're informing all employees about these changes. We're required to let them know by May 1st. And the PEC will also let their employees know in the different unions, just so that they're aware of this will be happening. So they'll see changes in their plans of deductibles and copays, but they'll also get a small check as well to compensate them for these changes and the inconvenience that they cause. So I think we're going through the process well. We should be done shortly. We'll be ready to inform people by May 1st and ready to start open enrollment for health insurance on May 1st as well.
Now, as far as this proposal that's presented, the insurance committee that we had put together, this is, they're in favor of this proposal.
You know, it's a great question. They have reviewed it and they are comfortable with it. Essentially, we looked at a lot of different options for health insurance, and these changes in benefits and the plan design isn't necessarily something that would have been anybody's first choice, but I think it offers us lower rates. And the way that the process works is that because it is being negotiated within what's called the benchmark plan of the state's GIC, meaning if it's within the deductibles and copay limits under state law or under the state plan, we're allowed to do it. So while it's not anybody's first choice to have these copays and deductibles, I think it's something everybody can live with. There's consensus, and we're comfortable moving forward with it.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I know this is a lot of work, having been in a union
Yeah.
and following health insurance. Thanks to everybody that's involved on our side and on the union side. Wow.
Well, then, if that's said, I will entertain a motion.
And no motion is needed.
Okay, no motion is needed. Okay.
Actually, you know what? You can vote on it just so we have it in case this gets challenged in any way. So
Okay.
you can make the motion. But
All right, I'll make a motion to submit the proposal for health insurance plan design changes under Chapter 32B, Section 21 through 23.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
None.
Motion made, motion seconded, no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
thank you.
Okay, under appointments and resignations, I did receive from Fire Chief. He has appointed Roy Chapman of Northampton as a call firefighter effective April 15th, 2026. We don't need a motion on this, so just letting
Chief
people
can make
know
his own
where.
appointments.
And hopefully at some later date, he can introduce them to the
Great.
town. All right. All right, so moving right along. IT, information technology, vendor selection recommendation. I know Andrew spent a considerable amount of time looking at different IT vendors that would best serve the town. As people are probably aware, IT is a big deal today. We have to protect all our information, our employees' names, social security numbers, and town business. And as you probably read in the newspaper, there's been incidents of people getting hacked in town halls and cities, and it's just, you need a good IT vendor. So I'll let Andrew follow up on which selection that you present.
Yes. So we essentially reviewed 3 firms. I was involved in a interview process with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, where they looked at 2 bids to be the regional services provider for towns across PPPC's area, and was introduced to a very good firm out of Westfield called Entree Technologies, and I enjoyed meeting with them, and we had a proposal from them that I had submitted to you earlier. We've also had a very good relationship with our current vendor, Suzer IT. They've provided us strong service, and we've been happy overall with their model. But I can't pass up this opportunity from Twin Lakes Technology. I'm very happy with the proposal they've put together. It's a little bit below our current budget level. It would offer us, I believe, the same level of service at the least. I worked on them with them on another project recently in which they provided some pretty good problem solving on some issues that we were working on. They are the current vendor for the schools. So they are already on site at the schools around 3 days a week. So presumably, and we've talked about this, if there should be an urgent issue where we need somebody here, they're already in town and would be able to assist. And then they've put together a proposal in which they would be here on site for about half a day a week to deal with any issues. So that's dedicated time for us. But if they needed to come by, if someone's having an urgent issue, they're already pretty close 3 days a week. So that would cover us closer to 3.5 days a week versus right now 1 day a week. So it's a good budget. The teams that we've worked with have been very strong. And while we like our current vendor, I think it's a good move to switch to this to bring all our services for the schools and here under one umbrella. It offers us some potential for future sharing of other services for our procurement and other things. Just to be working with one vendor, I think would work out well for us.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. I do like the choice that you've made, and I think it's a good choice. So with that being said, do you have any?
No, I think that's great.
Okay.
I just want to make clear that we have a lot of appreciation for our vendor, Suzer, who's worked very hard for us, and especially Rowan on their staff, who's worked on site here, has done a great job. So a lot of appreciation for them, and I think this change just feels like something that would work really well for working alongside the schools.
No, I think this makes sense for us. I agree.
So I'll make a motion to approve entering contract discussions with Twin Lakes.
I'll second that.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'm going to go out of order again because I know Marlo's here. So before we go through town warrants, I'll let you jump in there. So in case you I don't know if you have to leave early or not. Okay.
I'll have a full report on the 28th for you, my normal reporting, the second or third meeting of the month, but I just had a very quick couple of announcements. Things are quite busy with the DPW and myself. I just got a new quote in to replace the letters on the front of the town hall. The company can get going on it almost immediately. They got to come remove the letters, the bracketing, the tracking. They're going to scrape and repaint that gable end because it's a little rough. And they're going to build new lettering in brackets, maintenance free. They're going to be a composite letter. It's going to look the same, but it'll be maintenance free. And it sounds like we'll be able to hopefully get this all done before town meeting and election. So
I'm just curious, the flagpole, is that on the possible future list, to paint the flagpole?
I can take a look at it. Absolutely.
Take a look at that, because since we're going to have somebody here to lift up, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
If they can do that at the same token.
Yeah. And I thought all that work, they got to bring a lift and a lull to do all the work twice. The agreement that I have is $3,280, $3,280. I thought it was pretty darn reasonable for the work that has to go into it.
Because that would work out good. Memorial Day activities in front of Town Hall is on the 24th, which will, well, at the park, and then they'll have a volley in front of the Memorial Town Hall. So
Yeah, we'll get
it'd
the
be nice to
flagpole
have
done.
that look good for Memorial Day and town meeting. Yep.
Yeah, we'll definitely get that done. The other announcement I got, this is kind of like hot off the press, is a little, let me say this right, Little Ponset Road. The spur that comes off right next to our Elm Court property and next to the library, I mean, not the library, excuse me, the cemetery. You go down the hill, you get down the bottom, there's a culvert down the bottom. When we flood in the spring, it passes water. And the flatland down there, well, 2 days ago, everything was underwater. The road was washed out pretty good, impassable. Went back down there today. The culvert is exposed. It's an old steel culvert, 24-inch. It's going to have to be replaced. And again, I'm just getting going on this with conservation and our assistant planner, Bella, to try and decide which direction we can go in on replacing that culvert. whether it can be an emergency replacement, all the way up to a full NOI. And I'm working through those pieces as we speak. So I just wanted to give everyone.
How big is that culvert?
24 inch.
Okay.
It doesn't take any stream water, but it's definitely on the edge of the delineated wetlands and everything else. So, and it's definitely a major, it's a major area for farmers to get into their fields just down outside of that too. Otherwise, they got to come in all the way from the other end. So I'm hoping we don't have to go through a full NOI and all that. But I'll certainly have more information on the 28th.
All right.
A lot of stuff going on. I'll save all the other stuff for the 28th. That's all I really had for tonight.
Perfect.
Is there a chance you'd need to move sooner on the culvert? Is there anything you'd need from this board? I feel like there wouldn't be.
I got to talk to the fire chief because there has to be emergency response out there. God forbid if somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
A fire, so on and so forth. So if I go with if I'm allowed to do an emergency replacement, I have 30 days to do it. All the materials that I need, I had Dwayne look into it today. They have it right at EJP.
Great.
The culvert pipe itself is only about $560 on other procurement through the FERCog. So, and we do it in-house. So
Now,
it's just a matter of getting through the permitting if I'm not allowed to do an emergency.
that grant that we got with all the ditches and stuff, that's being presently done now, or?
That's moving along, and this is the culvert, so I don't know if it lines up with that same catchment area.
I don't know
You might know
if they
from
give the
around.
ditches and notify where culverts are, or whether or not they notify if the culverts and the ditches are deteriorating. I'm not sure how that report
I mean,
will
if this
work.
culvert is used solely for agricultural use, that maybe gives us something to work with. But I would think that it's a piece of infrastructure, of drainage infrastructure, but I don't know.
It basically, it takes the spring floods or whenever the river floods.
Yeah.
It can be 4 to 5 feet deep there over the top of the road. And it's washed the road out numerous times. But again, the culvert, even if we cleaned it out, it's coming apart. I got pictures of it. It's a seal culvert that's rotting out. So there's different things that play into the decision-making, how we're going to be able to replace that and how long.
Yeah, I don't think it would qualify for strictly agricultural use. I don't think, but we'll find out. We'll do our
find out.
research and
But
Yeah.
see.
it was hard for me to believe, but I rode that road last week and it's all considered town road. A big loop that goes out and around. So,
Because we just replaced the culvert the other year, but that was a large culvert by the water treatment plant.
Bridge.
Yeah.
This is nothing like that project.
No.
It could take a while to get through the permitting, that's all.
I'm very glad our guys can take care of it too. Thanks.
Yep, that's a big deal.
Most of our culverts are similar ages, so as one goes, you assume the others are probably in the same state.
Yeah, I'll have more information also on the cemetery project, the roadway projects. I have a survey company coming in next week or giving me a quote on Monday. They said they'll be able to get right on it. So that's another project that the highway department has out there that's good size for our highway department. But we're working on that for this summer too.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Move to topic 8, which is a town administrator report. Want to throw that in before our,
Yeah, I don't see why not. So there's a handout for you tonight. The first piece is health insurance, which I think we've basically spoken to already. The second one is of particular interest to everybody here. So this is electronic timesheets, which are live now in the treasurer's office. So you're entering the 20th century. It's very exciting. So we have met with all departments. Last department head meeting, we talked this through. There's a couple options for how we do the electronic timesheets. I think we talked about this. Some folks will want to clock in and out like on an app on their phone. Some will clock in and out just on a computer or at some other central station. So you can have like an actual time clock. And then most folks will do it just on their desktop computers, and they'll have their times already pre-populated, because most people, at least in town hall, work pretty set schedules. And then you'll have the opportunity to customize that as you need to when you take sick time, vacation time, anything else. So we're rolling it out this week with town administrator's office and our assessor. So we'll keep expanding that circle of who's on the electronic timesheets, roll it out further. I think the fire chief would actually like to get started pretty soon. So we'll be rolling that out shortly, because he's got a lot of folks who it's going to be very useful for. So DPW will have some decisions to make on how to do the app, but I think we're the time clock, but we're close on that. And we'd like to have everything rolled out by at least the end of this fiscal year. So
Nice.
making good progress. I have a question for you just to kind of work through. So for department heads, so like my timesheet, you have the option of either having someone on this board approve my timesheet. You will still see, the warrant printed out. You'll still see the payroll warrant, and you'll have to approve it, and that has everybody's information. So it's not like you lose that authority there. But for the online timesheets, someone has to approve it. It can be either, like for my timesheet, Tammy could approve it, or one of you could approve it. And since you'll be seeing it anyway, you might just decide you want to see it when it comes to you once it's all done. But that's up to you. If we add one of you as a account owner, we just need to pay a monthly fee for that account, but it's like $3.50. So it's a small fee if one of you wants to be the approver of, say, my timesheet and the other department heads' timesheets.
Okay. I just know that when I first got on the board, I had hoped to see this happen. I'm just happy it finally is happening.
So we can follow up on that piece. You can decide who you want to approve department heads' timesheets. And I could certainly do it as your representative for everybody but myself, and then the treasurer could approve of mine, or we get an account for one of you and you all approve it. So
I
it's
give
fine either way.
everybody a meeting to think about it,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
either it makes sense the chair does it, or one of the representatives from the board does it, or even, I just think about it.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Good. So as I mentioned in our public forum earlier, we do have our new website that launched on April 2nd. I think it looks really good, and we're figuring out the functionality of it. There's some things that are a little harder to find now than they used to be, so we'll look for ways to move that where we want it. But overall, I think the menu looks pretty clean, and the content has been synchronized with what we had before. We're still working out some of the training of it, but I think overall it's working pretty well. So I don't know if you've heard any comments on it. If there's more that come in, please direct them to me, and I can keep working on making the website work for all our residents.
Yeah, great. I did see the new website. It looks impressive. I know it's always a work in progress, because people come and people go from various committees, and keeping it updated is always sometimes a challenge, or getting information on there is sometimes a challenge from various committees, depending whether they send it or not. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good. It seems to be runs fast. And my only question on the software is if our new appointed temporary building commissioner has access now, or is he need access to his permitting and stuff?
He has access to his permit site. That was the priority, was getting him in there. We will make sure that anything he needs from the website, he's got as well.
Yeah, because I know that Kyle had set up, they could do stuff online to submit for their permits and stuff like that. And I just want to make sure he's familiar with it, that's all.
Yep, he has access to that, and we've been able to monitor and make sure that there's not much of a backlog on that site. So that's looking good.
Because on that software, I don't know if there was any training that they paid for that the company provides or not. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Wally is, I think, learning it pretty quickly. He uses a very similar piece of software. He does use a different one in the town where he's in, but he says it's been similar enough that he's been able to work it out. So
All right.
it's worked out so far.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, you bet. So for projects, I do want folks to know that we've mentioned that there was an independent report that we were doing on the Route 5 infrastructure project to see where we're at. That report has been finished, and we'll look for a way to make that available to the public. We'd also like to try to host a public meeting in the coming weeks to update folks, especially West Street residents, on where we're at. We should have more information in the next couple weeks as we arrange a meeting with the contractor and other parties in play here and figure out what the mitigation is going to look like, as the report that came back did indicate some of the same problems that were found in the CEI's report. So I know it's frustrating for folks not to have more of an update. There's a lot of work that's going on in the background by this board and by our DPW and by other folks we've brought onto the team. We are looking forward to moving this as fast as we can and taking advantage of this upcoming construction season to do whatever work can be done.
Okay. I know that we're meeting with the finance board at 6:30. I know we have not taken up topic 1 because Luke's not here. And I assume we don't want to go into executive session and come back until Luke shows up, if he shows up. So
I had 2 other things to hit on my update very quickly, and then I don't know if this board would be comfortable with starting to talk through the warrant, since not all of that pertains to finance. I think that would be allowed as long as we talk about it at 6:30 as well. I think it would be all right to start approaching that.
we can talk, we're going to go over warrants with the finance committee, or?
Go over it with the finance committee, but I feel like some of the decisions on there are up to this board. So I think if you wanted to start on some of it, you could,
Okay, well.
or you can wait because you might want your 3rd member here.
All right, well, usually 1 through 4 are usually housekeeping, right?
That would be correct. There's a number of housekeeping
mean-
things on here.
And then,
So number 1 is elections. That came directly from the town clerk. I'm sure that's in good shape. Number 2 allows the town and the select board to apply for grants. I don't think we'd want to change anything about that, but you can check the language. Article 3 is on here every year. This allows compensating balance agreements if
Right.
needed. Article 4 is the MOA to get Chapter 90 funds.
correct.
Article 5 is probably where we start getting into actual decisions.
Article 5 is snow and ice.
So for snow and ice, as you all know, when you put a warrant together, you are not required to say the dollar amount. I think it's good to provide information when we can, but we also don't want to lock ourselves in if some of the numbers are still evolving, which they certainly are on this piece, at least our decision on it. I think on snow and ice, we're going to end up with about a $64,000 deficit, which is well below the 100 plus that we've had in the last couple of years. So a lot of credit goes to Marlo and his team on that. But right now we just say provide a sum of money to supplement fiscal year 2026.
Yeah, I believe Marlo's done a lot better bookkeeping on the snow and ice.
He's
and
been
and
pretty
that's why
fanatical
it's-
about it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. And since he's he's listening. He's listening. Good. Excellent.
Article 6 is previous bills.
Yep, we'll have one previous bill to pay of $2,000, but or a little over $2,000 for a porta potty vendor that didn't bill us for a couple of years. So this comes from I think 2024 or something, but we'll get it done as long as the town is willing to pay for it. Article 7, we have talked about getting some additional funds for the Route 5 infrastructure project for our legal fees for next year. One of the options available to us is just to raise our budgeted amount for legal fees and for professional services, but because this is really just for one project, we want to make sure we're tracking our expenses on. I'm thinking it makes sense just to ask for this sum either from free cash or what I'm thinking now is from retained earnings, the enterprise account, because this is all related to a sewer project.
And plus this article, we hope to recoup the money from.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah, we'd want to
so-
recoup it.
The intent is to put the money up to do the work we need to do.
Yep.
And then get the money back for it.
Yeah. And so we'll talk about, so this is just the structure of it. We'll talk more about the exact numbers when we work through this with the finance committee. Article 8, this is for OPEB, other post-employment benefits. Our financial policy states that we try to put $10,000 into this a year. Last year we did 20 to make up for a year where we didn't put any money in. I would recommend we do 10,000 from free cash this year, and that's in the free cash plan that we'll go over more. 9 is on here as a placeholder in case we want to put any money into the general stabilization account. Right now we're leaning towards not doing so because we are using free cash to balance our budget. We even talked about using stabilization to balance the budget. It's a year when we kind of need to dip into savings, and it would kind of look funny to also be putting money into savings when we're kind of in that rainy day. It will be an accomplishment to not use stabilization, so it's kind of okay not to put money into it. But I'm keeping it on here in case we have a change of heart. Article 10, this is something that our accountants have said that we need. We have a past journal entry where we stated we are moving money from free cash, but it was never done. We need to move that money now because this keeps showing up in our audits that we are essentially $94,000 short from somewhere. So once we do that, it unfortunately uses up some free cash, but it does make the problem go away. So our accountants will make sure they have the exact right number for me, but it's going to be around $94,000, and then it will make this past accounting issue.
And we don't know where it is.
This is a past accounting issue from like years ago.
From years ago.
And this will clear it up.
Previously, we had a past issue account of $50,000 that nobody, it was considered a ghost account. It somehow got put in the wrong register, and we had to do, I think, the
Something
same
like
thing to take care of it,
It's
yes.
the kind of thing where the money was approved but never actually moved.
Yeah.
So we're finally moving the money. It's already been spent. We're just moving it.
Okay.
Article 11, this would be to supplement the FY26 budget. So this year for just the health insurance line, because as you know, our health insurance costs ended up being a lot higher than we expected this year because of the mid-year increase through Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. This would give us the additional funds that we need from free cash, I'm recommending. But we could also try to see if we could supplement it through just an interfund transfer or something else. But once we get, we can talk about this at the Finance Committee of where the money comes from and how much it is.
Okay.
And then Article 12 is a recommendation to make a transfer to the town's unemployment insurance trust. We have an unemployment insurance trust that every year we put a budget in for about $25,000. Any money that's not spent from that for unemployment insurance that year, it goes into this trust. So we've got a nice healthy amount of about $100,000 in this trust. We are anticipating we could have higher than usual unemployment expenses this year because of some cuts happening at the schools.
Okay.
So I'm saying from free cash, we might want to take some money for the unemployment insurance trust. Article 13, this is kind of cool. This would allow us to create a reserve fund for special education. This has to be approved of by town meeting, but once they approve creating this account, they're the ones who put money into it. But then to take money out, it requires a vote of the select board and the school committee. So this is in case we have a student come to us mid-year who requires an out-of-district placement or other costs that we're just not anticipating, or allowed to create a reserve fund that would allow us to, if we didn't have it, we'd have to either find funds from somewhere else in our budget or call a special town
And
meeting.
this money can come from where?
It can come from anywhere we decide to
So,
put it
I
in.
mean,
Say if the,
at the end of the year, we had a lot of free cash, we could take some of that and put it into that account?
yeah,
okay.
or if schools, for instance, get a grant they're not anticipating, or if
Okay.
they have a surplus of some kind at the end of a fiscal year, transfer into there.
I
It could
just
work.
want the town to know where this money would come from.
Yep.
And it would be only like if we had surplus money would go into the account. And the reason for it being is for those situations that occur which is not, if somebody moves into town and all of a sudden their child needs to be outsourced, then the town has to come up with the money or whatever, right?
And if
So,
it's from free cash or somewhere else, the town will still get to decide if we're going to transfer that money or not. That's the same
Okay.
they would with any other appropriation.
all right.
Article 13, oh man, I don't want the budget to be unlucky 13. We'll see if we can move that up in some way. But right now, Article 13 is the budget. Article 14 would be a simple rescinding of a bond authorization. Last year, as you remember, We had 2 votes about bonding for the boilers and the roof. We had 1 if we could get a debt exclusion, and we had 1 without a debt exclusion. Debt exclusion passed, so we didn't need the second one about bonding without a debt exclusion. So that can be rescinded. And maybe I'll make that number 13 if we need to.
But I mean, okay, you got 13, 14, 13, 14.
Oh, I have 13, 14 twice? Perfect.
Oh, yeah, you do.
15 for the budget. These numbers are still a work in progress.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to,
So I'll fix all the rest of them.
yeah.
Great. All right, well, let's go by the numbers that are currently still on the page. Revolving funds, Article 15.
It's a annual thing.
Annual
so-
thing, we have to set the limits of our revolving funds. Last year, we added a new one, the Watershed Management Timber Sales Account. It's going great. I am not recommending any changes in spending limits for any of these accounts. They would all be the same right now. That just has to be done every year. So that would take us into capital improvement planning. If we want, we can put a hold on this for now since we'll go through all these with finance.
Right.
But
Okay,
Yeah, I think the rest of them are that.
that whole page is all capital planning.
yep,
And that puts us to 22 then.
CPA.
CPA, again, kind of capital, but so the first would be appropriations from estimated revenues we can put towards committee administrative expenses for our admin staff who do considerable work on these, and then any meeting postings or what's the other thing I'm thinking of? Buying office supplies, whatever. That can come from, we are capped. We can't use more than 5% of the revenue for the year for admin expenses, but that would be about $19,000. I'm recommending we only take $10,500, which I think would work great. And then the first thing you do is you take the required amount by statute and put that into the reserves. So we are required to put 10% of our revenue into historic resource reserve, 10% to community housing, and 10% to open space. The rest goes into the budgeted reserve. Then you start pulling from the reserves and the specific reserves and the budget reserves for the actual projects. So 22 would just kind of be the housekeeping, and 23 would be for the First Congregational Church steeple. This was recommended by CPA. It's a small amount. That's like $4,000. Article 24 would be for the day pond. We need just a little more money to finish that project.
And let's say Day Pond looks like it's almost completed. They were
That's
putting
correct.
all the grass seed down and
Yep.
that got completed and
Yep.
it's looking good.
Yep, we are almost done, which is great news. And then, the only reason we need extra funds for this is that our cost estimates were actually finished after last year's town meeting.
Yeah.
So the cost estimates showed it actually a much larger deficit than we're actually going to have because the contractor was really good and came in with a very aggressive low bid and has done great work for us.
Yeah.
Article 25, this is for the Cutter Farm Museum. We're looking for $50,000 for the siding and the roof. And we have a grant application in for the state that if we're successful in that, then we'll have everything we need to get that project done, hopefully this fall, which will be really exciting. Article 26, this is for a playground, School Street Playground right behind the fire station. There's some upgrades there, some new equipment, new mulch, and CPA backs this project. This would be a lot of fun to do, so that's great. This is for Article 27. This was a community member put in this application for affordable housing at 7 Elm Street. They'd originally applied for more funding to essentially service the gap in what their expected revenue and expenses were, but now it's more of early funding that would be used to get this project underway. It would be $100,000 to build 2 affordable units out of an 8-unit building at 7 Elm Street.
I don't know, would they have an architect present the plan? Was any plans presented? I was just curious.
No.
Okay.
But they have some kind of rough ideas of what things would look like and cost estimates based on similar projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Article 28.
Article 28 is to get consultant help for producing our housing production plan. This is something we intended to do in-house, but we just don't really quite have the capacity and the time from our assistant planner and from myself. So this would follow up really nicely in our 2040 comprehensive plan, and this is required to have in order to get to your showing adequate progress on affordable housing each year. So even if we start creating some units, we're not going to get into what's the state's 40B threshold unless we have this plan. It will also help give us some ideas of where we could build affordable housing in town, which is a priority for a lot of folks. Article 29, this is for, we had the folks from Galanka Farm come in and talk about the agricultural preservation restriction from the state. They will be moving forward with that process and just need a small match from the town. We actually have a fund set up that can provide most of it, but we're a little short in that fund. This would take us the rest of the way there. We would give a 5% match coupled with wait lease 5% match, and that would bring us to the 10% needed for the property.
Okay.
So that's CPA.
Okay, the only questions I have is, did we start last year at 6:30? Did we start town meeting last year at 6:30? No?
That's a wonderful question.
7 o'clock?
In my head, it was 7.
Okay. All right.
We met before at like 6 or 6:15, before the town meeting actually started. This finance and select board.
And we have 31 articles. So,
Might be 33 because my numbers were wrong.
or 33.
Might be 32 because I might cut one.
Well, that's fine. I guess if 7 is fine. We did save the other articles for finance when we meet with you guys in like 5 minutes.
Do you want to talk
Capital
about
planning.
We'll be ready.
Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Fund? Article 30.
Okay. Oh, this one?
There's 2 more on page 9 in your packet. So this one we've talked about. This would be to create the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Fund by adopting a state statute.
And we've talked about that already.
Yes.
And 31 is by law.
The zoning bylaw for battery energy storage systems. So we've talked about the context of that. Bella gave a good presentation on that. I do need the language in here, but I'll get that into the warrant.
Well, we just have to make sure that once we approve the warrants and stuff, everything's online so people can access it. So they have that information before town meeting.
Mhm.
And on the battery thing, if from planning board, if that could be posted so that we just want to make sure the residents have enough of information, as much information as possible for town meeting.
Something that was very successful, I thought, before special town meeting was we did a quick video about the different items. I think it might be of our interest to do that for anything that's out of the ordinary on here. We could do it for some of the capital things, but especially for housing trust fund and for battery energy storage systems. We should have some kind of presentation that folks can access online.
So you have somebody from the planning board for the battery stuff. And,
Yeah.
And I know you're well versed on the housing
Yep.
stuff. I don't know if you want if somebody from capital planning, like Mr. Keir would
Mr.
like
Keir
to
would be phenomenal.
volunteer.
Really, he'd be great.
It would be great for that.
I think he just volunteered.
I think
I
Mr.
think
Keir
Mr.
could.
Keir, hey,
could
thank
do
you,
it.
Mr. Keir, for volunteering for that. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
he'd be good. He'd be very good. Don't worry about it.
You'll find out later.
We're talking about a short video presentation, and then we'll talk to John about if we can schedule him for this. But about some of the capital planning articles and other things, so folks can watch ahead of time and know what's probably. Don't you think?
Last year.
We did a budget. We filmed your last meeting, and that worked really nicely. I think, right? And we do no.
I mean, we may have, but
For special town meeting, we did, and then for town meeting, we did a budget presentation at your meeting.
Right.
So we'll do something.
All right.
We could even do a budget presentation at your next meeting on the 28th.
It's just helpful. People see it beforehand.
Hi, is this Luke?
Yes,
Hey, are you on your way?
we're on our way back from Greenfield. We're coming down Route 5 into Deerfield now, so.
Great. Okay. I think it's fine to just, we'll include you once you're here, if that sounds good, unless there's anything you want to be involved in first. If you want, I can keep you on the phone.
I mean, so we're about to start meeting with FinCom, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, as long as we're still in the conversation when I get there.
Yeah, we should be. But if you want, I can keep you on the phone so you can just listen in as best you can.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. I don't know if you can hear that at all, him speaking on my mic. Yeah? Good. All right. Luke, if you do want to weigh in at any point, you can, because we think they can still hear you at home through my mic.
Okay,
Great.
sounds great, thank you.
Perfect.
So when, is he on his way or is he still at the scene?
He's on his way. He's on Route 5 in Deerfield.
Okay, perfect. So we'll hold off again on topic 1 and we'll hold off on executive session until he's here. And
Mr. Chair, could we go back out of order and go back to the town administrator's report? There's a
Sure.
couple of things.
Okay.
Couple of things I missed here.
Oh, I had 2 quick things at the end, just that we're still on track to start the elementary school roof project the week of April vacation, so April 20th, 21st. And we'll have a walkthrough tomorrow with the contractor and our project management team. Marlo will be there. Our folks from our project manager, PCA 360 will be there. So that should be good. And then Western Earthworks is finishing the landscape restoration portion of the Pond project. And we're looking at trying to do some kind of ribbon cutting to coincide with the fishing derby, if that sounds good to everybody. It'd be nice to do some
great.
kind of celebration alongside the fishing derby of that Day Pond project.
Yes.
So,
That's a great
Cool.
thing.
great.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, 6:30. Finance Board wants to come up.
We say no.
Thank you. I didn't get one of those papers.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay.
Really?
I don't know where it is. Okay, well, thank you. We're back with the finance committees here. We have the chair, Luke, is on his way. He was called to a fire, so he's coming back shortly. I'm not sure which topic you guys want to start with, whether we want to discuss the last meeting. We were short, 142,000, and everybody had a week to think about options or review options. So I'll give it to the chair of the finance to see what you guys have come up with.
I'm also happy to start if you want me to kind of give the,
Yeah, we met last night and went over some options. Made some reductions, made some adjustments on other things. And we can start, we want to project it, or we can just go over it go over one by one, if you like.
Yeah, I can give kind of a sense of where we are right now, because I have mostly good news at the moment, which is good. Yeah, let's get the screen going. Thank you.
The first row of lights need to go off, I guess. I don't know where that switch is. It's over there.
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it looks like there, but from here, it's.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
All right, so I do want to say, so we started, so we had a productive meeting last night with the Finance Committee. Our folks from Finance Committee, really dug into the budget and looked at opportunities for potential cuts, potential changes in structure for some line items, looking at if some line items could be funded from sources other than the general fund. So I think that was very productive. Today was a hard day in trying to explain to department heads some of those cuts and talk those through. So obviously, we're already on a tight budget, and I think we all know that. And I think our department heads do the absolute best that they can with the resources that they have, and they all really need more. So telling some of them that we needed them to try to work with less was difficult. But my day got better because we've made a lot of progress, I think, across the board in trying to bring down this deficit. As I said, it started at about $568,000. One of the major things that I've done since last time we met was to calculate what it looks like the indirect costs are from the water and sewer accounts. So those have been updated and are higher than they were last year, mostly because of health insurance costs and other things that are basically by formula. But that put a dent in the deficit of around $40,000. And then we found a line item that does make some sense to be covering, again, from our ambulance revenue rather than from general fund. And then we also got great news that I'm happy to share now, that we've received a grant of $75,000 for Hatfield Public Schools, thanks to the tireless work of Senator Joe Comerford. And that will be coming through the Fair Share Amendment that the Senate has passed. We're pretty sure that will be coming. This budget does not rely on those funds, but it's a nice thing to know should be coming, as the schools presented a pretty bare bones budget with no increases. And to have that extra breathing room could end up being very helpful. We can talk more about that later. But if that does come through, then that could be helpful for us. So this budget doesn't rely on it, but it could be something helpful. And then I had a great meeting today with our accounting staff. It's been very productive to go through the two versions of our budget worksheets because we test each other's assumptions and make sure that we have the right numbers. So I found another spreadsheet error here, another error on our workbook that now has been fixed. So when I worked through it before, this offset for enterprise indirect costs was essentially double counting expenses that we had on the general government and other lines. So for instance, health insurance for our sewer employees is covered through its employee benefits line. It's already captured here. I also had it as an offset in here. So we are double counting that cost. So I've removed that for now. I know that the actual is $211,939 for all of our indirect costs, but it doesn't need to show up here. So if you're skipping ahead to the general fund surplus/shortfall, it's the good color right now. It's showing an $84,000 surplus after all the work that we've done. So that means this current spreadsheet captures the cuts that Finance Committee went over last night. And we can talk about what that looks like. It captures other cuts that we had talked about before. And basically, it captures everything in this spreadsheet here that I had presented last time to look at potential cuts and changes that would get us to a balanced budget. So right now we have $84,000 in breathing room. Our accountants recommend that we not go below, say, $35,000. So we can probably return around $50,000 from one of these sources. And we can talk about what we want that to be. I wouldn't jump to anything immediately, but we can get to that eventually.
Yeah, and just generally about the cuts, I want to sort of put it in perspective. when we say cuts, we're very rarely talking about below last year. We're talking about below what was requested. So, I mean, you can call that what you want. It's a cut versus, but it's not a reduction over last fiscal year.
So it's more like
in
going back
most
to level.
cases. It's sometimes it's going back to level, sometimes it's slightly above. There's maybe some that are slightly below, but in anything we did, almost everything we looked at was based on what actual spending has occurred in the prior fiscal year and what the pace of spending through February is. So when we looked to make reductions in requests, we did it in a lot of cases based on money that was unspent in prior fiscal years and is likely to be unspent at some level in this fiscal year. So, that potentially has a negative impact on your free cash going forward.
Well, that basically
It
goes
does.
back to what Daryl said at the last meeting. Where's the free cash money? And where are we getting it from? And are we putting too much in different accounts?
We
So,
kind of know where we're getting it from, and too much, I mean, I guess is in the eye of the beholder at some level, but in some areas, we have difficulty hiring people. We have difficulty getting people to fill shifts or to work. So whether we budget the money or not, it hasn't been spent. And so we'll have to see what happens.
And just to speak, on behalf of the department heads, who some of them can't be here tonight because they're actively fighting fires. There's two ways you could look at that. You could say we haven't been able to hire for this position, so it makes sense to cut it to reflect the reality that we might not ever find someone for this position. Or some of the requests that came in were for more funding for those positions to increase the salary, hire somebody, and get us to the level of service that we'd like to see for some of these departments. You could go either way with this. And we're not going to solve the problem entirely this year of being able to go up to the level of funding for some of these positions we might like to see. So it might make more sense to go with the more realistic option. But I just want to say there is a give and take here.
Some of it is going
Andrew, can I jump in real quick?
Yep.
So, I feel cutting the funding for the per diem staff, for the ambulance especially, is really a double-edged sword, especially now that our mutual aid provider is charging us a service fee. So if more shifts continue to go unfilled, and then we then have to pay this $350 per visit service fee, assuming that it doesn't go up next year, could also mean that we have to fund that as well. That is also going to come out of ambulance revenue. It's going to be a deficit much quicker. The other problem being is that if shifts go unfilled and transports are not being made, we are also then not billing for it. So now you're going to have 3 negatives coming out of one account, and that account is not going to replenish nearly as fast. So I really think it's a slippery slope to try to find that funding through an enterprise fund like the ambulance that is, completely dependent on us being able, or the fire department being able to transport patients.
Yeah, and I think we should make sure that we're explaining what the current proposal looks like from finance for that, and put that first on our list once we finish this overall overview. I don't know if you had anything else you want to say.
And one quick thing, I know when people hear the word cuts, there's no people being cut. There's no positions being cut. It's just maybe some slight adjustments in budget requests. It's money. It's not bodies. So nobody's going to lose their job because of this. That's another thing that we should be, other than the school department's decision to reduce some of their staff to meet their goal. There's nobody else that we're looking at having anybody losing their job with all this that's going on. So that's another really important piece, I think.
Are we just making numbers more realistic to what they are? So I don't know if you can even call
what
it
they
a
have
cut.
been.
It's just,
Right.
it's. I mean, the positions being lost are cuts, but This is not a cut, it's just adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, it could wind up impacting some things because we have other increases in departments, like, so there's other costs are on the rise and you have to find it somewhere, unless you're going to just increase budgets. I mean, that's just, but we can go over it and then see what it is. Let's go over it.
Where do you want to start?
How about right at the
Fire and
beginning?
ambulance. Might as well get it out.
Whatever's
Should we go to
first.
the-
Let's
You wanna go to the top?
and
Is that what
work
you're
our way
thinking?
down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not 100 items here. There's,
I'm not sure there's much.
Get down to assessors.
Guess
That's
we
the
should start
first
here.
one. Yeah.
So for the assessor's salary, the assessor, the assistant assessor works 30 hours a week for the assessing department, is currently paid at $40,000. There was a request from the assessors to move that salary to $54,600 to move in line with similar positions, both in town hall and from other assistant assessors in other places. The finance committee believes we should cap that at $46,900, but I think that's an active question about what should the salary be for next year. That would be a $6,000 increase, and the position also received a $6,000 increase from 25 to 26.
they did from my point of view, seeing through the presentation, they did, a good job looking at comparable folks in various places and made a solid argument. It just didn't feel like something that we could do in 1 year, especially given last year. So
Yeah.
that was really the only.
I mean, it's still a pretty significant increase over
Yeah.
this year, it's about 15%.
It would still be a goal down the road to
Oh, yeah.
get that up to where it should be, but it's a big leap for 1 year.
Right, and it's a big leap considering that we went into this with a $500,000 deficit,
Right.
got it down to 143,000, and we're still grasping. And so that's the difficulty here, because cash from this, because we're going to have maybe even worse. And so we have to be very careful about how we
I mean,
we're
we're using a good bit of free cash. We can do it again, presumably next year if we have to. But beyond that,
Yeah.
we have no idea. And some of the expenses presumably are one time, at least to some degree. I mean, I would not think that we are going to see a 52% increase in health insurance costs over the next 2-year period.
We better not.
If we do,
Yeah.
we're going to have to dramatically reassess how we do
trouble.
business.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no way around
No,
it.
it's
Yeah.
extremely unlikely. And because I think, the biggest issue with our health insurance was just that our rates were far below market standard, and now they're pretty much caught up if you look at where we're at. So instituting deductibles, other things, that'll pretty much bring us around where you'd expect to be.
Yeah. So, hopefully the rate increases going forward are more in the norm that you would expect, which are not good, but not catastrophic, like the last year and a half has been.
So, all right. So I don't think we have to necessarily decide on everything at the moment, but I am keeping a list of what these changes are and areas for, looking at again if we need to. So there's assessor's salary, which currently stands at $46,900. I'm skipping treasurer because that we already talked about. Some of these are yellow, but we've really already talked about them, what that will do.
Legal, we talked about last time. right?
Legal, we talked about, that was already on my spreadsheet separately.
Yeah.
So that's not a change.
These are just some.
All right, we should talk police.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Chair, if you want to talk police.
The expenses, I don't know what the story is. That was done prior.
Expenses,
I
don't worry
remember.
about. This is really
That was-
just making sure to match kind of how the police department was tracking their expenses, and it comes in at a number that they're comfortable with. On the salary side,
Salary, basically, this budget includes a 2.7-ish% COLA for all employees, which is in line with what the school is doing under their contract. And so we applied that to this, basically.
Yeah, there is
asked for more.
a small added expense that we already talked about, which is for the dog, the handler for the service dog that we have. And then there's a contractual increase for the chief. They haven't hit their number of the budget they have. The most they spent, well, we don't know where they're going to come in this year, but they're probably going to come in below the budget by around $18,000. But that is really just because they had an unexpected retirement that occurred. So the police chief would say that it will be a challenge to meet his weekend and part-time staffing with this number, which is about $7,500 below his request. He anticipates being able to hire somebody for the full-time position and would like to, and he would like to also hire folks for the part-times. And by filling those positions, he'll be able to make sure that the department can staff the expected levels on weekends and holidays. This cut here, he thinks he can make it work, but it will be a challenge, and they might end up below. So if it's something we want to restore, it's something to think about.
I have a suggestion as well for the end of this.
All right.
About that issue that might be.
Perfect. All right, so let's continue with just kind of presenting where we're at and move to our next one. There's a lot going on in fire, so I'll let Sean talk about it.
So we've moved. So when we looked at the budget first time around, there was for fire chief wages, $6,600 or $6,900, 66?
Yeah, $6,600.
$6,600 was paid out of ambulance.
You'll see that in the
for
request here.
for the fire chief's wages. It seemed highly unrealistic that the fire chief was only spending $6,000 worth of his time on the ambulance service, given that it's got to be pretty close to half of what is going on, if not more. So Andrew talked with the chief, and he estimated that it was more like 60-40, that 40% of the time is on ambulance, which seemed vastly more reasonable than 7% or whatever we were doing. So we made that adjustment to move some of it to ambulance. We did the same thing with fire regular full-time salaries because those people all work on ambulance as well. We did not do it with the part-time salaries because it just wasn't clear. It's not clear to us that any of those folks do anything with ambulance. And if they do, that it's not accounted for in the ambulance side already. So we just left that untouched rather than try to figure that out at this point. It just seemed like a lot for no real particular reason there.
So I think it's important to clarify two things, that there are two things happening at the same time here. There is the question of, is the budget level overall between fire and ambulance the amount that we want to meet? So are we going to meet the requested level?
Right.
And then what's the split going to be? So for fire chief, obviously that's contractual. There's no change in the requested amount. It's only about whether it comes from fire or ambulance. And we changed the split from about a 90-10 split to a 60-40 split, which more accurately represents the time. And for fire regular full-time salary, there was a request to go from $75,000 to $83,000 on the fire side, and from $30,000 to $37,000 on the ambulance side. I think the Finance Committee is basically recommending keeping the amounts level and changing the balance to be about 60-40 from fire and ambulance.
It's level
didn't keep
plus
it
the
level.
2.7%.
2.7%.
Yeah,
That's right.
So they got the COLA.
Level plus the COLA. So it doesn't take on the full request that came in. And again, the chief made the request for more funding because right now we, again, have a vacancy in one of those full-time positions. We ideally would have 2 full-time fire EMT positions. I've had 3 resignations from that position since I've been here, and we have 1 person in that position right now. We're missing another. So the chief has just walked in as well. So That's what was done on fire full-time right now from Finance Committee. And then for fire part-time, no change was made in the balance between fire and ambulance, but a $10,000, not cut, but the $10,000 below the request. It's about a $1,000 cut from last year because the number was $116,000 in FY26. The recommendation would be $115 this year. That line item came in at $121, basically $122 in FY25, and is currently through 2/3 of the year at $56,000. So I think that's what we need to say about the fire and ambulance staffing.
Current, yeah.
And I will just say, we kind of have two pressures at the same time. We need to make sure that, we're realistically showing what comes from fire and ambulance, but at the same time, if we put too much on ambulance, we could run out of actual revenue to support that line. Then we'd be dipping into the receipts reserved account or even this trust account that we have for ambulance. So while they're at a healthy level right now, you risk depleting those pretty quickly if you move too much of programmatic costs into ambulance. And we need to just be aware of those risks, especially with the $70,000 that we're being asked to pay from that this year to South County to cover those expenses.
Yep. And just to clarify, part-time is shift work, right? And intermittent is call volunteer guys.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's an important distinction.
So say that again, Chief. Part-time is shift work,
Correct.
and then the call
Intermittent is for call members.
is call.
When you show up, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
When they're called out to a fire or any call.
Correct. They come directly from home.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we didn't want to mess with the part-time the variance between fire and ambulance because we don't have enough information and it just, we don't want to put too much pressure on it right away. Just
Okay,
figure it out.
just the regular part-time people would be partially ambulances
yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
and going in line with the
Some of it.
full-time people. Okay.
Okay. So we've gone through assessor, police, fire. Let's see if there's anything else major. Oh, yes.
DPW, didn't we do something?
Yeah.
DPW, but I do need to bring our attention to this one. So we cut this seasonal employees line. There's a request for $10,000 more for that line, and we brought it down to 38. I think we can keep it there. That would be stable from last year, but we realized that we added the part-time admin to that line, which probably isn't the right place for it. So the part-time admin, who also serves as the assistant assessor, has been added back to the highway administrative wages here.
Okay.
Okay.
So we believe Marlo can confirm, but that's why we had increased that line, was to capture that position.
Yeah, I put it in that line this year.
Yeah,
It makes sense as a part-time employee with the DPW, but we can definitely move it back to the other line.
Yeah. It's not really seasonal,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it's the wrong line for it. You're
Yeah,
correct.
it's the wrong line.
Absolutely.
That was done
Yeah.
by me badly. But and we'll double check the numbers in the other employees because we've carried it there in the past, but I'm pretty sure that's just labor, and then the admin will now cover through this highway administrative wages, which makes more sense. So that's that.
Okay.
So that would probably, I don't think there's room for a savings there, but that's okay. And the other thing I'll say that I will do is run the exact salary numbers that we'll need for each of these lines. So I'll work with our treasurer's office staff and just make sure that we have the right lines, because when you multiply the overall budget by 2.7, that doesn't necessarily capture multiplying, taking their rate, multiply by 2.7 and add the actual number of pay days in the year.
Right.
So that's going to be
We
up
just-
and down on some. I'll get that
Yeah,
right.
we just roughed it at somewhere between 2.6 and
Yeah.
2.8.
Yeah.
On the salary line, but it is going to require refinement.
And that's not just for the ones you touch, it's for
Yeah.
all of them in here. I'll
Yeah.
make sure that we have the right numbers, and that's just a activity that
Well,
has
it's
to
not
happen
going to be
next.
wildly different.
It's not going to impact the overall budget too much, but I just want to make sure it's correct. I'll feel better. So is that it that we did yesterday?
What about school? Did we do something with school?
Well, not here, right?
The only thing with the school was the 75,000, what we were gonna.
Actually 85,000, or is it 9,000? Because the 75,000's got to be offset with the grant.
I didn't do anything with the school grant.
Yeah, so we're actually plus 84,000.
Right now, yeah, we're plus 84 right now.
Without doing it.
I haven't used that grant. Not used the school grant.
So, and we're just holding it out right now because we actually don't have it. I mean, in hand.
They told us we're going to get it, but
Yeah.
They told us we're going to get it.
Till we get the
Something
check.
could always happen with the governor not passing it. I don't believe it's been passed by the governor's office yet. So I don't think we should be depending on it for anything. But it's also nice to know it's there so that maybe we.
Not anything we need, you know, I mean,
Urgently,
immediately. Yeah.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
So I agree, you know, with the accountants, obviously we want to have some room in that bottom number.
Yep.
You know, and I mean, we've gone down to $7,000 before. I don't know that you want to play that game.
I don't think we want to be that.
Unless your revenues, you know, you've got to be really secure on your revenues.
I'd want to know there's slack somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, we were kind of aggressive in the new growth number. There's some slack, and I'd say the overlay number. I think the overlay number is higher than it needs to be. Not the amount we're using. The assessor's office has said that they're comfortable putting in $30,000 from overlay surplus, and then we've put the overlay budget number, so the amount we put aside for potential abatements at $90,000, which is a little high, which is good. We should probably keep it there just to be safe.
I guess the question that I have is that we have this potential $75,000 grant for the school that's floating. We also have a budget that's built with $170,000 or $175,000 of potential federal aid that the school is counting on to be able to make their budget. So if we're not going to account for that $75,000, because it's just as much in the air of what we're actually going to get for federal funding, why are we not trying to build a school budget that accounts for that 170? And then if we get it, or if we get part of it, then that's extra. And ideally not having to come back to the town for extra operating expenses 2/3 of the way through the year. None of the other budgets for the rest of the town are built with grant funding anticipated. If we get it, then it allows us to be able to do more projects and return money at the end of the year back to free cash.
Well, those two grants are different in that one of them is not approved. The other one is appropriated.
Which one's appropriated?
The federal monies are appropriated.
Is there a serious concern we wouldn't receive it?
No, I don't think. I mean, only if chaos ensues.
Sure.
And I mean, you have to remember that what we're depending on there, in some of those school grants, other larger systems are depending on to make up would result in closing schools like immediately if they didn't get that federal money. So, you know, large cities would just be without schools. So that it would have to cascade a long way down to reach us.
I guess the part that concerns me is that if, let's say, instead of 170, we only receive 95, right? And we're not going to know that until after we close the budget and it's approved. So is that going to then leave us in a position like we were last year with a massive deficit? And unfortunately, it sounds like the school department, to meet the demand last year, has largely chewed through the school of choice surplus that they had. So there's no buffer left. So I hate to be the bad guy, but I think that the budget needs to be built in a way so that we're not completely dependent on what that federal grant funding is.
When they made the presentation, Luke, and maybe you remember, maybe you don't, last year, I think they were way more worried about whether the federal funding was going to come through than they are this year, from all the indications that they get from whoever their contact people are that let them know that. And they did express that when they came for their budget presentation, that they don't have the fear this year like they would have that they had last year about whether that money would come through or not. And I don't think there's any history of that money not coming through at all or even being cut. I don't think there's any history with that at all in the past 10, 20, 30 years. So why all of a sudden would we concern ourselves that would happen right now? other than if you're worried about the leadership of our federal government. I don't know.
I'm just remembering the meeting differently from a couple weeks ago where they said they weren't entirely sure if they were going to receive all,
Yeah. No,
which is what we had been told.
That's not my recollection.
I mean, there's always some level of uncertainty, but we're building the budget on various levels of uncertainty always. I mean, we're getting a federal grant for the sewage treatment plant. What if it doesn't happen? What if they turn around and say, oh, we're not doing that anymore, and we pull it back? We'll be on the hook for it. I mean, that's how these things go, I guess. It's kind of almost impossible to account for all that, though. We would have to shrink the budget by like a massive amount. And then if we get the money, I don't know what we do then. We put it back, go higher.
Well, I guess that leads
hire
to
the
my
people
question of
fired
why are we
back?
not accounting for the 75? Just because it's not in hand yet? I mean,
Because because it's appropriated every year by the legislature, and it just hasn't been signed by the governor yet. We do have an idea about what we'd like to do with it once it's been approved, which probably won't happen.
You wouldn't have it in time for town meeting.
Won't happen probably before town meeting. But do we know if we actually do need to appropriate it like that?
I would have to ask to be sure, but
I mean, it depends on how it comes.
yeah.
So presumably, well, it would have to be appropriated if we want to set up a fund with it.
Well, you can set up
Can
the
we
fund.
set up the fund at town meeting and
without
say
putting any
free
money in.
cash or grants, blah, blah, blah?
We could do
Put
something.
put the language in like that, like we do
The
with,
way I read the statute, it makes it sound like the appropriation has to come from town meeting. A grant like this, unanticipated funds, it's possible that could just be put into the reserve fund, but I don't know. But you also wouldn't need to put it into the reserve fund. You could just use it
You could do nothing.
to solve the same issue. If we had a significant amount of a funding need come up, you can use it for whatever you want, that 75,000. It doesn't even have to touch that reserve fund first.
Town meeting, that's all.
You could use it to replace that
right, I'm just trying to
112,
figure
you
out
can use
how
it.
to avoid special
175.
town meeting.
Yeah, I don't think you can, because I think it needs to be appropriated.
The 75?
Yeah.
The 75 for the grant, I don't think needs to be appropriated. I think
but the fund.
But you need to set up the
the
fund.
money for the
You can't-
fund, I think, would need to be
But can't you
appropriated
set
at
up the
town meeting.
fund?
At town meeting.
You can, but you can't put the money in it.
You can put free cash in if you
What
want
if you
to.
put free cash in?
Yeah.
Haven't we done this before where it's free cash / grants if we get it?
Did it for a fire thing. What did we do? We appropriated free cash, but then anticipated we were going to get a grant. And then we used the grant and we didn't use the free cash.
use the
What
free
was
cash.
that?
Do you remember, Bob?
We appropriated, but then we were waiting
Can't
for a
remember,
grant
was
to
it
come in.
pagers or radios or, doesn't matter.
But some,
There was an article for the radios, but that was gonna fund the entire radio project.
right, but it didn't turn out to need to do that because there was
Correct.
a grant already. Yeah.
Right.
So you could
But
do
otherwise,
something,
It's still a one-time expense, so
right.
I came in after, I don't know what you guys are talking, if you're
Right.
talking about a recurring, then you start running
No,
into.
it's not a recurring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would think we could do that at something similar to that at town meeting. So we don't have to come back.
I think you could. Yeah.
I do want to draw our attention to one other item that we haven't discussed yet that we'll need to make a decision on, and that's vehicle leases. So as everyone here probably remembers, we put a significant amount into leases last year. The budget line right now sits at 139,462 because of the number of vehicles that fell off the lease. And that just captures the new vehicles and actually doesn't capture all of them because 2 of them are paid for by water and sewer. So there was a request this year for 2 new vehicles. One of them would be a mini loader for the DPW that would be used for sidewalk clearing, among other things. So it's great for the winter, but also can get used during the rest of the year. The other would be to replace the fire chief's vehicle, which is in need of need of replacement. So right now, I am carrying both those vehicles, and I actually might even need to increase that number by just a little bit. And I think that would bring, actually that should keep our amount at the 84. But we're carrying that right now, those two vehicles. I'd recommend that half of the lease payment for the chief's vehicle come from the ambulance fund. But again, we've been using that a lot, so we might want to be careful of that.
It's, yeah, I mean, we talked about this quite a bit last night. I mean, you know, we are, obviously, we need a new vehicle. It's hard to know what it's actually going to cost because the last vehicle we did came in dramatically below what we thought it was going to.
Yeah,
So
the police.
who knows what will happen?
Most of the vehicles we
Have
put
not.
on our lease program last year didn't come in dramatically below anything. They came in right up we were expecting.
So we
But as
have to plan for the cost, I mean, and then see what happens.
Right, but as it stands now, as you have it put in, it's in this budget at the 139 or whatever, and
179.
I actually have it 139.
179.
I should probably change that to 179 for the request, but I have it at 179, 642. It might need a couple $1,000s more.
But my point is, with that in there like that, we're still at 84,000 to the good.
If we use 10,000 for the fire chief's vehicle from the ambulance trust, for the last ambulance, we did 20,000 a year from the ambulance trust. This would
Can
be
we,
10.
So we could conceivably not use ambulance trusts, and that we'd go from 84 to 74.
To 74.
do we know approximately what we have earmarked to come out of fire reserves in the last, what we've talked about the last couple of days?
You mean the ambulance?
Or ambulance, I'm sorry, yeah.
Well,
Essentially, we've increased from a $127,000 a year budget to a $237,000 budget.
and most of that is the 30-something thousand.
The two big changes is 70,000 from
Offsets.
Okay,
70,000
For
from
South County?
South County, and then 30,000 for the chief's salary, and then a little more from for that other line that we just looked at.
Yeah.
We did one other thing though earlier that we haven't talked about, which is significant, and I think we might want to look at, which is finance reserve.
I cut 10,000 from finance reserve.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, sort of given that we have some money, I mean, we really don't have a ton of money here because we're using free cash here. for
We're
some of this.
using 200
Yeah.
and some odd thousand
Yeah,
of free
so-
cash, which is
but-
risky.
There might be, if we're concerned that somebody, and we don't know who, is going to, or which line it's going to fall in, is going to be able to hire more folks suddenly than has happened in the past. We could deal with that through finance reserve if we had money in there to do it.
Right.
Just given that it's so hard to predict now, who is that going to be?
You just give yourself
Which
some breathing
line
room.
is it going to be in?
We did that a
You know.
couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We put more money in finance reserve because it was
Well,
easier
because we
to
had
get it out.
accounting.
Yeah, that
we
was
had
the accounting
issues that we put
fiasco.
Money in there,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I mean, that's one way to sort of say, if we get three-quarters of the way through the year, halfway through the year, and all of a sudden, oh, more of these shifts are being filled, we can fund it.
But you're not funding any of the shifts out of the money that you're taking.
You would make up for it on the back end with finance reserve.
Yeah.
which-
You just
But
transfer.
that makes it difficult.
transfer.
If you don't have it budgeted, then it makes it difficult to say change the salary or anything else. So you think would be helpful to hire for those
Well, no, you
positions
can't do that.
Right.
But if you hired,
at the level
if
we're at
you-
right now.
if you filled more shifts, so say in the part-time, if you
Mhm.
filled more shifts and you got three-quarters of the way and you said, oh, all of a sudden we're filling 90% of the shifts instead of 70%, you could make up for that.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, if you're going to take 70,000 to cover the South County, what is it, roughly 30,000 to when you do the percentage split for the
Yep.
fire chief? And then you're going to take more, another 10,000. It's $110,000 that the ambulance has been pretty steady in terms of what its receipts are and bringing in and versus what its expenses are. So what is your plan for the future if you're going to take an additional $110,000 out of that account. And to me, it would, and from being aware of what the budget lines are, within 2 years, you're not going to have an ambulance.
We have $397,000 in there. How is it generating that money?
Well, the only way that account generates money is if there's transports made.
No, I understand, but
So there's money in this budget for transports.
The question is it enough? And how much would you be dipping in each year into the reserve account? So
I think it's a year by year thing. I mean,
why can't we
you
take
want my
this-
honest opinion? The next year, we as a town have to figure out what we need to do in all of emergency services. It's a hard place that we're all in. And I understand it. I'm not throwing mud on anybody. Everybody's working hard, but it's the same problem that every small town in the Commonwealth is having.
Right, so why wouldn't we take the 70,000 for at least South County since it's right now a one-time expense, out of a different account? Stabilization,
I
something
suggested
like
last night that we take it out of free cash, and I was told we can't do that.
no, we could do that.
we can do that.
We could absolutely do that if we wanted to. I said,
Sorry.
when I look at, oh, it's fine. Before we started pulling, more from ambulance receipts reserved and the ambulance trust, I looked at those as having pretty healthy balances and thinking for a one-time approach to this issue, we could probably pull from there and feel confident that we'd get through the year and then still have money to figure out what we want to do moving forward.
Yeah.
So that was my approach, but I think we do need to look holistically at what we've done to the ambulance account and what we feel comfortable with.
I think the bottom line is either way you do it, when you get to the end of the year, you're going to have decisions to make. And, you're not going to be able, there's no clear answer of how you're going to fix it next year either. How you're going to, eventually you're going to have to go into something, it's not, there's not a ton of evidence that it truly is going to be a one-time expense unless you fundamentally change. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that means you shouldn't use free cash, because we got to get through next year somehow. So you got to do something. But either way, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. What do you want to use?
It's just a precedence that you're setting, and I think that's a powerful precedent to set.
But next year, if you're getting the same thing and you don't have any free cash, what are you going to do? Then you're going to dip into it, right? I mean, like you're going to do something.
The other thing
right?
to look at too is that the ambulance trust and the ambulance reserves have continually been taken into to help offset the cost of a vehicle or paramedic equipment and stuff like that as well. So it's an account that gets dipped into a lot. And if we keep doing it, we're going to be in a position where we're not able to fund the staff that we have. And having the staff is what generates the revenue for that account.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree.
And what if 2 years from now, we decide that we can't afford to keep our own ambulance and we have to join South County? And then, and come up with a plan like that because we just can't afford to keep paying for our ambulance out of whatever. I mean, that's police, fire, ambulance are all three things that we're going to have to look at as a big picture. Okay, because the words you use is you were talking about the school budget. It's unsustainable. What we're doing right now with all those things, probably in your words, down the road will probably be unsustainable as well. To continue to fund the police, fire, and ambulance at the levels that we want, or even longer, and the town has said they don't want more services.
So I think we all know
It's a
that,
big picture conversation that's going to have to be had.
and I would say that to answer the question of, what do we want to, what would happen if we do need to make a big change like that, it would help to know that we have the right amount in reserves and in these accounts to position ourselves to make decisions there in case, we needed money for anything that would happen, money for initial payment to buy new equipment, whatever else. So we don't want to deplete anything. So I think, we're getting to a pretty good place here in knowing we're going to balance the budget this year. We've got $84,000 to play around with at the moment. And maybe it's only 54,000 because I'd like to keep a bit of a buffer. But we can, we've taken the flamethrower approach, the chainsaw approach. We can come back with the scalpel now and put some things back where we think, we set ourselves up for the best possible path. And I think there's a number of things to look at. The chief had his hand raised in case anybody wants to recognize him.
Sure. Good.
Mr. Chair? Yeah. Good.
Okay,
I
good.
can make sure the chair is all set.
Yeah, you had 2 votes, sir. You're good.
So I guess the two things for our side of it is going to be is that the town has to decide, or you guys have to decide if this is truthfully a 1-year fix, so we can continue to just balance this budget that we do every year and then kick the can to the following year. With that being said, when I left Andrew this afternoon and with the changes that the finance committee made last night and what is in the reserve receipt account, if the 237,000 and change, I believe was the number that would come from ambulance reserve receipts, if that is the new number for FY27, based on the current projections, Hatfield Ambulance will not have enough money to fund FY28.
At that level.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you had to rely on just receipts reserved alone,
Correct.
you wouldn't have enough.
Correct.
Now, so that doesn't include any revenue that would come in.
And any change potentially for emergency services, but specifically the ambulance, from everything that I recall from 13 years ago, it is a 2-year process to go to another agency. So you potentially have a gap year that you're going to not have anything, which you can't actually do. You're gonna have to have something because the residents have to have.
Right, but you wouldn't continue to go at that level, and there would be revenue too.
The problem is that we're not making the revenue to keep those funds up. So we are, at this point, what we've typically had money left over at the end of the fiscal year that gets dumped into the trust, and then we fund the following fiscal year out of the revenue. Right now, the projection is the 127,922 that I originally submitted for FY27, we will not even make enough money in FY26 to cover that. That's the predicament that we are in. So we are going to be dipping into reserve receipts for the basic budget I submitted, plus the 70,000, plus this additional 39,000. So at that funding, we really only have enough money in the reserve receipt account for about 1 year and 10 months total.
Right.
Because I did it today, because I keep track on a day-to-day basis, and there's 441,000. So if we had to take out 237 and change, I think was the number.
Right.
It doesn't get you 2 full fiscal years at the current trend.
Right. So but as we just discussed, you would be back to using some other source. That's what you would have to do.
Yeah.
But you'd have, you wouldn't have, or you'd have to use some other source.
Yeah, and there's significant risk in what the chief is describing. We have to decide if that's something we feel comfortable taking on. I mean, ambulance is unique in some ways that there aren't any other departments that have even that amount to get through another year if something were to happen. But at the same time, you don't want to make cuts that are going to put you in a terrible position moving forward.
So why would we not take this, at least the 70 from a different funding source and not put ourselves in that
The only
position?
other funding source would be free cash.
Be free cash is the only thing left.
And then
Unless we're cutting something else.
right, and then you're you're doing the exact same thing out of a different account. That's all you're doing.
Right.
Sounds like it's all going to happen either now or later anyhow.
It's all going to happen one way or another. I mean, unless we make some kind of changes, so figure something different out or whatever you want to do. I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably 3 or 4 different options. I mean, revenues could go up.
Yeah.
You could, there's lots of different things you could do, but we got to make some decisions about that.
Mhm.
And I think the reality is you do have enough money to get through 2 years somewhere. It might not all be in that reserve account, but money could be produced to get through the 2 years, if that's what you have to do.
I think you do, but I think then you run into, by the time the second year comes around, you're kind of behind the 8 ball to come up with year 3, because if a lot of the discussion has been about what South County potentially would offer, Well, that comes into a whole contract. All 3 towns have to vote at their town meeting. Hatfield has to accept at their town meeting. And then there's actually the assessment process that comes out and they have their whole formula. That study from a few years ago, which is now 4 years old almost, was that for not an ambulance here, just to be part of their system, was I believe $379,802. So assume that 3.5 years later, probably going to be a little bit higher. So you're still going to have to find a funding source, but now you're potentially finding an even larger pocket. Just
Andrew, do you have the free cash list?
Yep. Yeah, we should go over that too, because we played around with that a little bit last night as well. Here we go. Too many tabs. All right. So I'll go through this really quick just so we're all on the same page. So free cash was certified last year, $1,059,995. We talked already about needing to correct this past accounting issue. That would be $92,000. I will calculate the exact amount that we're at for health insurance for FY26, and I'll also see if there's any inter-fund transfers we can make. But if we continue to do that for free cash, that'd be $94,000 for this year. Snow and ice is a $68,000 deficit. Marlo, before this culvert thing happened, was feeling good about finding half of that from our current budget as inter-fund transfers and doing the rest from free cash. I'm currently covering that, but we could bump that up if we need to. I'd like to do $10,000 to the OPEB reserve. Right now, we're not counting on anything for stabilization. We're counting on $200,000 from free cash into the FY27 budget. We need to do $2,790 for prior year's bill. We can talk about what our capital plan is at the moment. Right now, this number represents let me put this at 1 for now. This would be fire radios. It would be not the guardrail mower or debris loader, because we can get those from the current DPW budget. It would be $35,000 for the apparatus bay roof, $28,000 for town hall flooring. This would imagine that we do it this year rather than waiting for the year after when we could get CPA funding. But that's up to you and on that. So that's the capital right now is $75,500. Route 5 expenses, I'd like to take from the enterprise retained earnings instead. We haven't done anything else with retained earnings, and this is a sewer project. So as long as we have buy-in for that, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Last night, it's pretty small, given that we're taking on a $13 million project for.
Well, and this is for Route 5, not the sewer system.
The town is going to fully fund a $13 million renovation to the sewer plant. Covering the additional Route 5 expenses out of sewer seems minimal compared to that.
Yeah, pretty small.
I'm recommending $35,000 go into our unemployment trust to deal with the extra unemployment claims we're anticipating for next year. We've talked about $60,000 for Elm Court. We'll have to decide on that. We were talking about potentially $75,000 from free cash into the school special ed reserve fund. We can talk about if we'd like to do that this year. We can make that number smaller, whatever. We could make it smaller for seed money. If we do all of that, right now it puts us at $380,000 left in free cash, which is only $18,000 below the goal that I have of getting to about 3% of around what's our general fund budget.
Now, that $75,000 though is the grant that we're talking about also, correct?
The grant is for 75, but this would just be a free cash allocation.
Right.
The grant,
But we
don't
could,
have
we
something
could
funded.
write it so it could be free cash or the grant.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is if we wanted to, we could put free cash into the reserve account that we create this year. We could also put nothing into that reserve account, knowing that the 75 is coming, doesn't have anywhere where it needs to go, and could help us pay for any increases in special ed costs without even hitting that reserve fund. It doesn't have to go into the reserve fund. We can just use it for whatever we want to during the year.
So the other thought would be taking the town hall flooring out of the capital and taking that $75,000, not using the $75,000 for the reserve fund, and then putting your South County number in there to get you to a similar, well, you'd probably get to your number, your $399.
Yep. You probably would.
I mean, I think that, to me, that makes a lot of sense. We have a continually aging population in town, and you have the need for an ambulance and other emergency services. And currently, it's slated to take a very huge chunk away from that. And on the flip side, you have a school that you can look at the numbers and it's just slowly going down in terms of enrollment. And now we're currently working on a level budget, but now once you add an additional 75 into it, we're kind of not. And it's just, you kind of have this juxtaposition of things that are happening within the town.
If we use the $75,000 for a school special ed reserve fund, though, it wouldn't really be in the budget. It would only be in there if it was needed to be used. Right. Otherwise, it would just sit there, just like stabilization does, basically. The problem is that in reducing the budget to get to level funding, which it is because, some expenses go up, of course, you're running out of room if something happens. And because special ed is a legal entitlement, you don't have a lot of room there. It's not like you can say no. All you can say is we're going to take it from somebody else's education. That's what you do, because you don't really have a choice. And normally when the budget has some extra money in it, you can kind of make up for those things, but now you won't be able to. So that's why we're thinking about creating a special ed reserve fund in case. And also the timing of these things is not knowable, right? Somebody moves to town, needs special ed services, you have to provide it. You can't say, well, we didn't budget for it, so you won't get it till next year, we'll budget for it then. So that's why the state created this reserve fund in the first place, is because these costs are unanticipated. And because you do get some of it back through circuit breaker, which is probably more complicated than we want to get into right here, but you could get some of it back in a future year, part of it. Because if you have extraordinary special ed costs, the state does pick up some of that.
So in an effort to try to get us to some decisions, I will say, I shouldn't say this as a father of a 4-week-old child at home, but it is okay to split the baby here on some things. Like we could end up with $25,000 for the Ed Reserve Fund because we've got some breathing room now because of this grant. We could put in $40,000 for the ambulance fees to take some of the pressure off that ambulance account. We could, we don't have to do all or nothing with this if we want. That's an option available to us as we think about how the free cash is going to work. And that could, if we put in a little bit on some of these, it starts to make us feel more comfortable with the rest of the budget. It's just an option.
I would really like to see us take that town hall flooring project out of the capital and wait till next year to try to get the CPA funds.
I said I'd check with Marlo first before we decide on that, but do you have concerns about not acting on the town hall floor this year? Or?
No, it can go till next year, but I would highly recommend we do it then.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we'll get support with I'll say a more complete grant proposal from CPA next year.
Yeah,
to take care of it.
I think the only question on our mind about the whole thing was not that, was just you seem to have a good price in hand right now, and when you put it back out next time,
right,
what will happen? That was really
right.
The only question.
But it's also not general budget. It's not. It's CPA funds, which we have lots of.
That's true.
What's projected
I
to
was
go?
for them though, so I can't spend them.
What's projected to go to CPA funding from the town this year?
If everyone's comfortable with that, we can project that for now.
Did you hear John's question?
I didn't hear it.
Thank you. If we, for now, take the town hall flooring off of the free cash list. Oh, sorry, what was the question?
John's question,
What was the question?
What does it generate? Like what goes from,
CPA generate this year?
like what new money goes in?
CPA?
Yeah.
$380,000.
And what are we projected to spend for this year from CPA? Not even close to that, probably, right?
Well, above that, I think.
That hasn't always happened. It is.
I was
Step
talking
back
to a
and do a
member
quick
of
math.
CPA, And they said that the town would have to remove the asbestos, that they would not include the asbestos removal in their CPA funds. They would only include the flooring
No,
in their
that's-
CPA
that-
funds. I mean, I'm just
The
saying
chair,
that's
the
what I
chair
was told.
has gotten a ruling from the person he talks to at the state that if it's all part of one project, because it is the mastic that holds that asbestos flooring, that it can all be done through CPA funds.
Okay.
He's got the ruling on that.
Well, there seems to be
I can
some.
show you the email if you want to see it.
Well, that's fine, but
Right.
it appears that not all the members on CPA are aware of that
Okay.
email.
Yeah.
That's all.
Right now, about $400,000 planning to spend this year from CPA. So actually pretty close to that 380.
Yeah.
It's a pretty washable, yeah.
So my
Does that answer your
suggestion
question?
on free cash, I'm not tied to the 399. I know you are, but I would put 50,000 to South County. I would put 50,000 into
Special
the
ed reserve.
Special ed reserve, and I would keep the 28,000 because I don't want to wait for CPA. I want to get that project done. That's my personal view.
It doesn't matter. to me.
Everybody's
I mean,
entitled.
Yeah, that's-
It doesn't really matter one way or
Right.
another. You were just talking about which reserve fund do you want to spend it out of.
Right,
That's
exactly.
really
Yeah.
all you're talking about.
right.
In the end of the day, if you don't come up with any kind of solutions and nothing happens, you're going to be spending it out of the reserve funds until they're gone, and then that's going to be the
Now,
end.
one thing to remember about that 1,059,995, 500 and about 30 or 40,000 of that number
Here.
was left over from last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so you really only generated less than $500,000 in free cash
This year.
this past year.
And we're on track to generate much less than that this year.
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah.
because of how tight the budget is.
Right.
Yep.
Now, it's possible, revenues will be higher than we
So
anticipated. We
so
try to
you
be
could, if
conservative.
we got it down to 300 and some odd thousand, you wouldn't think that next year's free cash should be much more than 500,000, probably. If it's that
Maybe.
high.
But that's why you're holding back $355,000.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But so we didn't, just to remember, we didn't generate that $1 million in 1 year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, if we
I
were
think people
generating
get
$1
it.
million a year, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So that could, I mean, that's fine with me. I don't know. How is everyone else okay with that?
Yeah.
Doesn't,
I'm just looking for solutions and I
Just moving it
threw a
around.
few,
And
a few
just-
solutions out, that's all.
And I think we should keep this conversation, just to be very clear, I mean, it is eventually this board's decision of what goes onto the warrant for these free cash allocations and everything else. So, for the free cash side.
Yeah.
So, but I mean,
Just
we're
make
getting somewhere, I think.
oh,
I mean, and
we
it has nothing to do with free cash, but I like Sean's idea of taking a finance reserve and maybe adding $10,000 or $20,000 to it to give us a little bit of buffer. As Sean talked about, if something happens and all of a sudden fire or police need some extra funds, it'll be easier to get it that way.
yeah, we have no problem transferring the money as long as we're not
Not creating,
expanding this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if what we're saying, if what happens is, oh, we filled all the shifts to the level we expected. And so we actually wound up spending, we're going to spend more money than what you gave us. We can fill that gap.
yeah.
So you're saying, Daryl, put another line in here
No.
to
this
take
is
free cash and
no,
put it?
no,
Or from
no.
your 84,000?
From the 84
Okay,
or the
all right.
74, whatever
that number is, yeah.
That would be
And
my
it's a lot
suggestion.
easier for you to
Yeah.
transfer the
Right.
money than go to town meeting and get
Right.
2/3.
I was just asking where the
No,
source of
no,
that money
no,
was.
That the source is general fund.
And also, if you have money in there at the end of the year, we've actually very rarely spent it.
Right.
Prior to end of year transfers. That's really the only time we've spent it. I think we've gone the last couple of years with a few $1,000s worth of requests in the
Oh,
whole
we started
year.
increasing it last year, right?
Well, because we had cut it.
Just
A
as a
lot.
buffer, just in case. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good thing.
No?
I think we typically spend close to $30,000 from that account.
Right, but
which
most of that
is good.
occurs at end of year transfers
Right.
with things we didn't end, that come up right at the end of the year and we have to make up for it. That's where most of it comes from.
And really, even if you didn't have it, there's always other money in end of year transfers that you can pull that money
Historically,
from.
there has been.
Yeah.
And we'll see what it looks like this year in a tougher budget year, and we'll see what it looks like in FY27 again in a tougher budget
Absolutely, it
year.
does serve a great function of if something unexpected happens and you have money in there you didn't spend.
There you have it.
You don't have to go to special town meeting to
Yeah.
pay a $30,000 bill. that
Right.
You didn't,
Yep.
And it costs to have a special town meeting too.
Yes.
Well, and there's really no reason, like if something with a boiler in town hall, and we have to fix the heat, like,
Right.
it's not like we're not going to have heat. We got to do something. So,
Yeah. Right. And a few years ago, we had all those extra elections and all that work. So we had to help with the clerk's, budget.
So just to kind of summarize where we're at for the general fund budget, we now have this essentially surplus at the moment of $84,000 that we probably don't want to reduce much below $25,000 to $30,000. Sorry,
Now-
go ahead, Daryl. Hold on.
Sorry, would the 84 be affected? So in South County, we put 50,000. So we're still going to take 20,000 out of the ambulance revenue to make it.
It doesn't touch anything with general fund
Won't touch it.
because that's all
my
ambulance.
question.
Yep, it won't make a difference.
Okay.
but yeah,
But it removes some pressure from ambulance, which is nice.
Yes, no,
So basically, you're going to about $53,000 or $4,000 out of ambulance for next year. Reserved for the 33,000 and the 20,000.
yeah, you're still doing the police, the fire chiefs,
And the other
40% of the
change.
salary,
Right.
and the full-time, they're 40%.
Right.
And then,
63,000 still out of it instead of 100.
yes.
Okay, 60, okay.
Right,
All right.
Yep, that sounds right.
okay, sorry, didn't mean to.
No, that's fair. Okay.
reduce it by 50,000 basically. Yeah.
Yeah,
So what I'm hearing is a number of things that we could revisit in the changes that were made in the general fund budget. So, yep,
I mean, one thing we could just keep in mind would be to use some amount of it to reduce the amount of free cash that we're using to supplement this budget.
yes, that's another option.
Like $25,000 or maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a good argument that that's the most prudent thing to do because then you're digging less of a hole for yourself while also
yeah,
you're also making some changes in the budget that will probably allow you to be in a good path. But we need to make sure that we feel confident in the services that we can provide at the budget level that we have right now with some of the cuts that are in there or amounts below the requested amount. So just to review very quickly, and actually we haven't even talked about this one, but I'd made an earlier reduction of the tree warden's budget from 45 to 40,000, 40 to 35. We'll have to check. And that's something that Marlo had requested for this year. Leases are still in here. That's $40,000 that we're planning to cover, but we can decide what we want that to be. We talked about the assessor's salary. We talked about police salaries reduced from 7,000 from the amount that they came in requested at. And then we have the fire changes with the 30,000 from the chief's salary shifted to ambulance and about, I can't quite quantify what it was for those part-time, about 20,000. The chief might know better. But below the requested amount and some of it shifted to ambulance. And then we have the finance reserve that we could add 10,000 to, and then we could change free cash. So we could do some of those things. We have to decide what's the priority from that list for either restorations or cuts or whatever else.
I mean,
I'm okay with all those.
I agree. I mean, I agree at most levels with the chief's assessment of the overall picture in general, in that, you feel more comfortable if you had a plan to go out 3 years than 2, that just feels like, more manageable in terms of, can you make changes? Can you get things done? I mean, you're going to have to make decisions about what you want to do and then go forward with it. And that's going to take time.
What if the
So
town decides they don't want to get rid of the ambulance?
then they have to find a way to
They
pay
have
for
to
it.
They have to figure out a way to pay for it.
Find a way to fund it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Override territory,
Yeah.
most likely,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
I mean,
Right. I think that's a perfectly legitimate decision.
Yeah.
We just have to pay for it.
yeah.
And recognize that although it brings in revenue, which is great, it can't be really expected to pay for itself. It's not how most things
Yeah.
work. It's not how this works. And
No.
it's not really how anything else in town really works.
No, we're not revenue generating.
Yeah, it's not a business, really. I mean,
But no, but my suggestion, Andrew, is we stay with what we put together. We're going to meet again on Finance Committee on what, the 27th?
The day before, yeah, the next
And
select board meeting.
then we can meet with you guys on the 28th and finalize everything. That would be my suggestion.
Sounds like a plan.
So how can I best organize this for folks? I mean, I'll send around all the materials. I'll update, the free cash list. I'll update kind of that balanced budget plan that I'd passed around with everything that we have. And I'll kind of make a list, like I just went through, of the areas that are still kind of up for debate. Certainly the free cash is still up for debate. And yeah, this is still somewhat up for debate. But we're close, I think. And certainly we're operating from more of a position of strength now that we know we can make the.
I think we have answers. We
Balance.
just have to figure out what those which answers we want.
Which
We have
options do you want?
We have multiple
multiple
choice,
choice.
and then just have to figure out which ones you want to do.
What's our bottom line right now?
We're still at basically an $84,000 surplus.
Okay, so we went from 142 to 84.
Swung all the way around.
the other way.
So
to
we're
the-
in
to the-
positive.
Which
To
is,
the
which is a
positive.
good thing. I mean, we've gone as low as 7.
I think so.
I would,
That, you
I
know.
wouldn't be comfortable being any lower than 30 personally,
30 sounds good.
but,
When you were going to 7 or 8, though, you were also like turning off the streetlights.
oh yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't.
yeah, that was.
And I'm comfortable at 30 if then we say restore more of that finance committee reserve. If there's buffer in there that we feel good about, then we're good.
Well, yeah,
I
that-
think if we're worried about making up any deficits at the end of the year, the more you put in the finance reserve, the better. Then you're more easily prepared to take care of some of those things.
I mean, I should just say for everybody who's listening, there are limits to that, right? Or do
Yeah.
they take the limits off?
Of the finance committee reserve?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
There's a limit to how much filling you can do.
Yeah.
So, basically you can't put your whole budget in finance reserve and then let the finance committee decide how to spend it as the year goes along.
Right.
There is a limit to the percentage, I think,
Yeah.
of, I don't know that we'll be in danger of hitting
No.
it, but
Yeah.
there is a limit.
Okay. I guess I just want to make sure that this board feels like they've had enough time to ask any questions or debate anything, because we still have a decent amount of work to finish to get a finished warrant. So,
Well, I know there's never a problem with things to spend money on in this town.
yeah, for sure.
There's always something.
will
So
be.
putting money in finance reserve, even at the end, there'll be something that's important that's needed anyway, so.
Right. Yeah, we've always, I mean, and the reality is that if you don't spend it, it goes to free cash next year and we're going to spend it.
We're gonna spend it eventually.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. I guess the question that I am asked a lot by residents that are watching is, and I touched on it earlier, is this continued enrollment slide of the schools.
But their enrollment's up this year.
You need to finish your question, right?
Yeah, it is the slow enrollment slide. And I mean, a lot of people have written us articles and letters and stuff to the select board and made some very valid points that, 5 years ago, the schools had 397 kids in them. And now there's 302 projected or on DESI for this year. So you're seeing an almost 25% loss in student population, but the budget continues, other than this year, to continues to climb. And for the most part, staffing levels really have not changed. And so there's a large percentage of the population of town that has been bringing their voices forward to us and asking, why are we continuing to fund this at the same level?
And they're
it's a difficult slope to walk, I get that. However, it is a conversation that I think needs to be brought to the table because there's a lot of people who are saying the same thing.
They're cutting 10% of their staff in this new budget. They're cutting 5.5 people.
Not according to some of the numbers that they had submitted to us.
In the budget that was submitted to you and to us, is the same budget. They are cutting 5.5 positions to get to that number this year.
That 10% of our staff, I think, goes.
They're 53.5, so it's actually more than 10% of their professional staff. The number is 53.5 in their, I'm assuming they're correct. I don't know if you've checked it or not, okay? But at 53.5, cutting 5.5 positions, that's more than 10% of their professional staff for next in that budget. How can you say that that's not a significant cut?
The only reason I'm
or any other residents say that's not a significant cut.
Because some of the reports that they've given us don't correlate with what that says. We had asked as a board for a report of the staffing levels.
Now, Christy said when she was here the other day that she was going to update those numbers. Have you got those numbers from her yet?
No.
Okay, well then maybe you need to ask her again for that. Maybe we'll have that will make things clearer.
We first started asking for the numbers in October and it took till December to get them. So I'm going off of a report that they had provided to us, and now we're going off of other numbers that don't correlate. So the question then becomes is which numbers are we going off of?
Do you remember what the December report said for FTEs?
I can pull it up.
Yeah,
right
it's not
here.
important, but
I mean,
The FY26 full teachers licensed staff is 53.5. Okay, this is what, in their budget, they're cutting 5.5 positions, full-time, or 5.5 full of professional staff.
And in the report that we received in December, we have a total count of full-time employees of 89.6.
Did it say FTEs? Yeah.
Elementary has 50 FTEs, Smith Academy of 34.6, and 5 for the district.
So what was the FTEs said?
Hatfield Elementary was 50. Smith Academy was 34.6.
Does that say FTE or employees? I'm just curious.
I'm reading it verbatim for what our report says. It says FTE directly.
It says FTEs. Okay.
That's from the DESI, or is that from the?
This is from the school staffing
committee?
report that they gave us for the overview of their FY26 budget.
All those numbers aren't in this, okay?
But they're substantially different numbers, and I think that's why it's important to address
Are
it.
they substantially different numbers?
I don't know, I'm not.
They're saying professional staff, right?
Teachers licensed staff would from
Right.
FY26 go from 53.5 to 48.
Does teachers licensed staff count everybody?
That's for the district. That's
Teachers,
not for
licensed
Yeah, but
each.
just, I don't
It's
know.
not splitting the two schools
No,
up.
but I don't know if that counts
wouldn't
every
count
single
admin.
person who works. It doesn't count the secretaries. It doesn't count the, there's.
No, because then there's ESPs, custodians, administrative assistants, administrators that they've listed on this.
Right.
On this as well, okay? We're just talking about the licensed staff,
Teachers.
direct service employees to students,
Right.
okay? 53.5 to 48, that's 5.5 positions.
Correct. But there's also a lot of other aides and things like that are not counted as FTEs, but they are staffing at both schools.
no, that's
No,
CSPs.
yeah,
They're
yes, they are.
counted in here.
Yeah, and they're having the same number, they project the same number next year that they have now. Now, remember, those people are significantly lower paid than a teacher is.
And also some of those people are there because they're required by special
By
ed.
special ed.
Right.
So they're preventing you actually from sending somebody to $130,000 a year out of district placement.
Yeah.
So you're paying some.
Those 22 ESPs are probably, I would say 75 or 80% of them are probably dealing with kids who are required to have them on IEPs.
Right.
Yeah. It just the numbers that are in this don't correlate.
I don't know what those, I can't answer that. That would,
Happy to send that around
the
after.
school
We
would
can-
have to
at
give
if
you
it's
that
helpful.
number.
Right. But it's our voice, or it's our job as, a voice of the residents of the town to also bring this up.
And so are we.
So where else does the board want to cut from
Yeah.
for the school?
I don't know if, I don't necessarily have an answer for that. I think the question becomes is that a lot of residents are looking at overall enrollment and the trends in it and the overall spending, and they're going in
Different
two
than
different
any other
ways.
town. Is that any different than any other school district?
If you do look at some comparable ones in the area, they're not quite as sharp, but.
I mean,
Enrollment's down across the board simply because there's not as many kids as there used to be.
I mean, honestly,
And there's more charter schools, there's more other opportunities for them to do other things than.
Dunn's, I mean, it just depends on, I guess, on how you want to, what your definition of comparable is, but there are almost no comparable districts in the area. I mean, there's very few, if, by my definition, like when I did it, I can get the spreadsheet out, I don't have it with me, but like I used population, but of course I had to go like plus minus 25% because there's nobody else running a school district with this many people in the town, first of all, except for, I mean, even Hadley's much bigger, really, in terms of the population of the town.
North Brookfield.
North Brookfield is one.
As close as anybody.
There's some like that, but like, you know, so I did that. I used median income. I used EQV, equalized valuation of property, as a way to sort of come up with comparables. And you have to go pretty far to find a lot of comparables. You have to go out to North Brookfield, you know, maybe like there's almost no districts like ours. There's some elementary only districts that are comparable. But the real question in my mind is what, given that you're statutorily mandated to educate these people who are here, these students, what is option B and how much does option B cost?
What are the people you talk to about who are concerned about this? What do they have suggestions as for how to solve this, or?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that continually keeps coming up is whether it's utilizing some of the grant money that the state has recently released, or setting up an article to be able to fund an account to have a third-party consult done of the district, and also find out what the number is too, whether it's regionalized or come up with a partnership agreement with Hadley. It's been kicked around for decades, but what does that actually look like for us? What does that look like for their district? Does it mean that Smith Academy is a middle school, Hopkins is a high school, vice versa? What does that look like?
It's been more than kicked around, though.
Yeah.
Hadley did a study. They got a grant, and from the
Right, and
DESE did a study, and they didn't find a significant savings. You know, I mean, could that have changed since that happened? Sure, it could have. We could look at that.
And if they're also thinking about, well, should we tuition them to Frontier or tuition them to Northampton or things like that? I can't imagine what the bill would be to do something like that, if they would even think about taking your kids.
Right, but it's also an answer that we don't actually know.
And then you don't have a seat at the table either.
But it also could be the end of the conversation too.
It's possible, yeah.
You know, if the number comes in astronomically higher and you also compare the difference of education and the extra courses and the larger class sizes to be able to collaborate on stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a different, I mean, I think if you're talking about the quality of the programming and how that could be different, I think there's definitely conversations
Very
there.
subjective.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but it's a conversation that if we had a number, right, that said it's going to cost us $2,000 less per student to regionalize, or it might be it's going to cost you $10,000 more per student to regionalize. At least we have an answer as a townspeople that we, as a town, can make an educated decision.
So where do we find the money to hire the consultant to do that study?
I mean, I think we have to look at
Where did Hadley
grant
get-
opportunities. That's your.
Where did Hadley get it?
And the
Yes, he did grants a number of years ago, and somebody actually, probably some eager intern, put together a summary of all the grants that they did, and a study, like a study of studies, like a meta study or
That's fun.
whatever, of all the grants. I shouldn't say that. I don't know that it was an intern. I'm just guessing. It's like that kind of
The
project.
best way to resolve it is if we know exactly what a cost would be, we have a warrant, and then the town can determine if they want to pay for the study.
Here's the thing I would consider, though. I would just ask if regionalization is a topic of conversation, I would take 10 minutes to look around the Commonwealth and see how many new regional districts have been created in the last, pick your timeline, since the 30 years. The answer is very, very, very few.
If any. Have you followed the Pioneer Turners Falls situation that they've been trying to put together of regionalizing that district?
It's very, very small.
What do you mean?
I've done very
Not very little.
Yeah.
Well,
They're I don't think that any of the powers that be in either town have any interest in doing it, because I don't think they're finding out that it's.
The fair share Senate version did include, I think, around $10 million for regionalization studies for small and rural communities. So if that passes, that we can find out from Senator Comerford if that's something that we might be able to take advantage of. Probably ask now if it's something that might work for us, or if that's somewhere else. More information is always good.
It's definitely worth exploring, because you're going to need some level of help to get the answers.
there.
But just know that what has happened historically, and even recently, has not been increased regionalization. It's been tuition, maybe. I've never really looked at that, but I know that probably has happened in some cases. And in some cases, there's been reverse regionalization.
Nice.
So like Worthington,
Town's pulling out of regionalization.
Now we're making generalized assumptions based off of something
So-
we don't have a study.
Well, and didn't we see figures last year, like if kids went to Frontier, like the cost of educating kids in the Frontier, this was according to DESE, and Frontier District was higher than what it actually costs us to educate our kids here in Hatfield. And if you want to go to a really high district, you go to Amherst, which
it gets really
high.
complicated. You have to really tease
Like
those numbers apart.
28,000.
Yeah.
But just because they have a certain per pupil cost doesn't mean that's what it would cost you to send a student there. They would probably charge you much more than their per pupil cost.
Well, you'd have to pull apart the numbers. It takes a lot of time, because
So clearly Luke is right. It's a conversation that we need to have.
Nobody's
I think it's the
disputing.
same conversation you have to have with all our services in town.
Yeah.
I agree that I'll have the same conversation will have to happen with the ambulance, and who knows in the future with the DPW, it could be everybody.
absolutely.
Senior center, everybody.
No question.
Nobody.
Right. Because then you talk to the townspeople and you can say, this is what it actually costs, and you justify whether it's an override or whatever you do.
Right.
So I guess I'll say this.
There you go.
In knowing that there are larger conversations to have here, and that we have a bit of a timeline now where we need to come up with better answers than 1-year budget fixes like we've done this year. Do we want some kind of article? Do we want some kind of money from free cash or somewhere else to help staff those conversations for the next year? And I can find out how much that would be, but something to help us with working through these questions about how to deal with our budget shortfall in the future.
Yes.
Why not?
And you should have a public forum before that.
Oh,
We're
I
due
think it's
like
right.
in another month to go through with what we want to discuss in the next year. So that would be some of the topics we can pick for our future agendas.
Yeah. Right, but if you're talking about the school, you want to make sure you bring the school committee in.
Oh, yeah,
and you've
definitely.
got to
Absolutely.
work in conjunction with them.
well, if there's $10 million in grants that potentially are going to become available, we should definitely look at that.
Yeah,
I'll ask Senator Comerford just if
Yeah.
there's already somewhere where that's going, or if it's something that really be open to folks like us. Otherwise, we can put aside some money from free cash or elsewhere for facilitation of this. I mean, I floated the idea to the select board to have some kind of budget committee or something that would be staffed by someone from finance, someone from schools, someone from select board, and then a couple other at-large positions. And then that's your working group to try to make the decisions for the next year, which the last thing we need is another committee, but it could potentially work. So who knows?
Okay.
Well, it's probably, it probably needs some kind of money.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, it needs some kind
It
of
needs some
staff
kind of staff.
to do
consultant,
legwork because
yeah.
you're not going to,
Right.
you're not going to, and in fact, you might need multiple. I feel like a committee like that is really good for if you had a committee that was, or a consultant, I'll just, whatever the word you want to use is, that looked into schools, looked into public safety options, looked into whatever options that there are out there, and then brought those to the table. Like a committee like that would be great to look at those and talk and make decisions.
They can't do the legwork.
But it's hard for one group of people, one select board member, one fine, two at-large people, to look at every single thing in town all at once and be like, and come up with options for this and options for that and options for the other thing. It's a really big thing. So I mean, it almost feels like you have to kind of divide that up somehow, but you might not have the people for it. I don't know, but.
Okay, so the good news tonight is we're plus 84s, so
Yeah.
that's a good thing, so. Yeah. And we still have a little bit more work to do for our final meeting, and then we can but it sounds like we're almost there, so I want to thank you for all the effort and time you put into this.
I'll make
We might
take a
want to
motion to adjourn.
consider
I'll
select
make a
board
motion
having
to
another
adjourn.
meeting
I'll
before
second.
next
All in favor?
Tuesday, or before 2 weeks from now, to get a little closer on the free cash list, just because we need to sign a warrant that night. But we can talk about that.
Any questions on the financial side for the finance committee before they leave?
I guess that night too.
Yeah. We need to, we can go through it here Monday meeting too.
Yeah.
So we're going to meet on the 27th.
We still have to continue, we held off.
I'll send you everything I got. Yeah.
Because you were.
Thank you.
on a
Appreciate
fire
that.
call.
And we still have to go over all these.
I
right?
take 5, John.
Yeah, we have a little time.
Ready, John, we're all set. Okay, we're back. We had a quick break. We're going back to topic 1 in our agenda. And that's town hall garage use, fire department and COA bay use. I believe that from a previous discussion with the fire chief, he wants to close the North Hatfield station. And I believe Captain Luke here had explained that he's the only one that goes to that station, and there's really, it doesn't make sense to keep that station. So they want to bring the truck down here and use the COA bay. But I know the COA was very concerned because now their van would have to come out, and where do they put their van? So that was the issue. So we all decided to take some time to think about this. So I'll open it up for discussion with my colleagues of some of their thoughts and what their feelings are on this.
So we had a very productive conversation with the COA. We had a joint meeting with both the police and fire chiefs, Marlo, the DPW director, Jerry, myself, Andrew, and Glenn, the main driver for the van. And we briefly reviewed the needs for the reallocation of where trucks need to park. And we came to a fairly good meeting ground. And so myself and Andrew yesterday sat in on the COA's board meeting. And it's to my understanding that they have agreed that they will keep one van here. And if the article passes for the garage to be finished on Elm Court, they're okay with keeping another vehicle up there. So it satisfies really 3 different objectives. It would get all of the fire and police apparatus down here into one location. And then with some reshuffling of where each individual apparatus is parked, the police will now have 2 bays that are actually conjoined so they can lock it a little bit better and keep their things more secure. And then the fire apparatus, the tanker and the brush truck will move to the next 2 bays further down, and then COA will now get the end one. So we had some, like I said, we had some very good productive conversation. Ultimately at the end, we came to a pretty good common ground here. That
I
solves all the
appreciate you guys all getting down and talking, because that helps resolve things when people sit down and talk to one another. And I appreciate that. I like the idea, your comments on this.
That sounds like a good plan. Yeah. It sounds like a good plan that you guys all came to it. I'm just still up in the air on the Elm Court thing, but that's another discussion.
Okay. All right. So
I guess it only works with Elm Court. So so we would need to make sure that we feel like there's 2 out of 3 of you who feel comfortable sending Elm Court to a ballot, or not to a ballot, to town meeting this year.
Right.
So it sounds like everybody has an agreement with everybody, and it sounds like it's all going to work.
Ideally.
So do you have a date, Chief, on when you plan on shutting down that North Hatfield station?
So barring any other changes, it will have to close on July 1st because they could foreseeably give us an invoice on July 1st, and there is no money for the rent in the FY27 budget.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Currently.
Which I'm carrying it right now. This is 1,200 just in case the Elm Court doesn't pass at a town meeting. Just we might. It's $1,200. We probably should just carry it just in case. But I don't want anyone to use that as justification for why we shouldn't build Elm Court. I think it's still a good move.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so.
If I may, there may be a delay now, right on July 1st. We had a couple month delay to get the work done up there. We're right in the middle of getting quotes and everything. You're in the middle of construction season, so it'll all depend on the contractors.
It's good weather, short term, the van would have to be left outdoors so we could still, move our vehicle down if everything else falls in line.
Mm-hmm.
It realistically should still be in the good weather.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thanks for meeting and working this out. I think it's, that was very nice of you guys to do that.
It was a pleasure to work with everyone too. Everyone was very understanding for the operational needs for really all three departments. So
I'd say Luke facilitated a very good conversation. I think it got to a lot of questions about what long-term goals are and what are short-term things we can take on. So I really appreciate the way you facilitated that. I think it was a good.
Okay, so
Good
we
process.
don't need a motion on this. I don't have anything that says a motion, but.
I don't know if it necessarily is one.
Accept
Probably don't.
the
We can
findings?
make a motion. It's
If
more
everybody
about.
just agrees about where they're going, I think that's good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, motion made. Motion.
No motion.
motion.
No motion.
No,
I
motion,
don't
okay.
think you need a motion.
That's
so.
fine. We're good. Okay, so that should cover our topics. So I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Well, before I do that, is there any unfinished business that needs to come
I would
up?
just ask if there's anything you're concerned about on the warrant. If there's anything you want to make sure we cover. And Luke was on the phone when we went over most of that, but we could always just review it. Feel free to come talk to me anytime during the next week and a half. If you feel like there's enough still up in the air that you want to have another meeting just to go through this, we certainly can do that. Finance is going to meet again on it, and they can vote, to approve of these. What am I saying? To recommend these items. But if you think we need another meeting, we could set that up just because we want to make sure we get it.
Covered a lot tonight. I think
Then we
most
should be
of
good to go.
What we want to do is we got resolved tonight. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see. I think we'd only have to, because they were talking about the flooring, and
Yeah, I don't think we had a decision on
there
flooring.
wasn't a decision on the flooring, and the other thing is, I'm still concerned a little bit about this Elm Court thing, but
Yeah.
so I'd like to still talk about that eventually.
So I'll update this based on our conversation. I'll kind of have everything that we've talked about in here. And then if we need to cut anything at our final conversation, we can do that. If you have questions to come up in the next 2 weeks, just come find me. I'm happy to talk about it. And we'll make our decisions at the 28th meeting. I'll just verify with the town clerk that we'll still have enough time. I can always print out the updated warrant that night. You'll sign it and we'll be good to go.
So are we thinking that we need another meeting before then? Or can
It's
we?
sounding like folks think we don't need
I don't
one.
think we
don't
do.
need- Okay.
Do you feel differently?
No, I just want to.
Let's plan on no meeting then, I guess, if folks
No meeting
are
next
comfortable with that.
Tuesday.
28th is the next meeting, correct?
Yes.
So we should be able to finalize everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can discuss Elm Court at that meeting as you have requested. And anything else for unfinished? Okay, if not, I'll make a motion to go into executive session with special counsel pursuant as General Laws C-30A, Section 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation arising from the Route 5 infrastructure project and pursuant to General Laws C-30A, Section 21A, 7, T, comply with or act under authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, specifically the Public Records Law, General Laws C-4S-726, discuss privileged communication from special counsel and not return to regular session. I have a second.
Second.
Motion made, motion seconded. Jaworski, aye.
Gagnon, aye.
Longstreet, aye.
Thank you, John, and we will not be coming back into regular session, and thank you, everybody. Have a good night.